Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Political Vigilante. A little earlier start time because our guest is all the way in the UK. So we're going to bring Tareq Haddad on the show in a sec, but just wanted to say hello. We're going to be discussing, it is Thursday, January 7th, about 12:15 p.m. Pacific time, 3:15 Pacific, 3:15 East Coast time, and 8:15 in the UK where our guest is. So just make sure you hit the like button, hit the share button, the subscribe, do all that stuff. And if you want to support the show and do any the super chats, I will answer all super chats after I'm done talking to Tareq. You know, I'll answer the super chat questions like this one from Sharif Snug, Shave Your Knuckles for Justice. I think the infighting on the left over force the vote is less to do with blue MAGA and more to do with class. I would bet my stimulus check that most, not all the, if not all the people defending the squad has healthcare. Oh, dude, done. Yeah, yes. Guaranteed. Anybody saying, oh, don't be mean on AOC and the squad, I guarantee you has great healthcare. Great healthcare. That's like a done deal, dude. That's such a great point. All right. So just make sure you like, share, subscribe, send this out, share this on your social media right now. And we're going to get into the interview. We're going to talk about the bail, Assange being denied bail yesterday, and then the trial on Monday. We'll get all the information on that. And as I always do with these live chats, as soon as the live chat is over, I put it up on Patreon and on Rockfin. And then, of course, I will take out the whole, I will drop as a separate clip, probably tomorrow, the whole interview with Tareq. I might break it up into two parts, depending on how the conversation goes. But whatever, if you miss something or anything like that, the whole interview with Tareq Haddad will be available tomorrow. And then, of course, the audio is available on iTunes and Spotify, the Political Vigilante podcast. So that's free. Like, subscribe, do all that stuff with that one. And if you are a Rockfin premium member or YouTube at the $5 audio level or up, you get early access to all of my, I drop all my live streams as I take the audio from them as full audio podcasts, and you get it early. You'll get it later today if you're Rockfin Premium or on Patreon. So let's bring him on the show, everybody. Please, again, hit the like button. Tareq, how you doing, my friend?
Yeah, good to see you. How you doing?
Good. Let's make sure we can hear your sound okay. Can you just talk for quickly?
Sure. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Unfortunately, I haven't had a long career in broadcast journalism before this. So.
Okay, it sounds a little echoey. Do you have like a microphone to plug into the computer, even just a headset? Or
I'm afraid I don't. I can speak up a little bit.
Okay, that helps.
Sorry. Bit of a low budget.
It's all right, dude. Believe me, man. The reason we're late is like it's just me, and like stuff wasn't working. I just had to reboot my computer. So all right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Political Vigilante. My name is Graham Elwood. We are lucky to have returning guest and journalist Tareq Haddad, who's been covering the Assange trial. We've had him on the show before, and I just wanted to bring you on to give our audience an update. We obviously yesterday he was denied bail, but on Monday they denied extradition to the United States. So as somebody that's there, that's covering it, first of all, walk us through kind of what happened yesterday and Monday, and then kind of give us the sense of what do you think? Because this is a peculiar strategy from, I'm not sure what they're going for, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll probably start with Monday just as it makes a bit more sense. I attended the hearing by the video link this time just because of it was a bit uncertain whether I'd be able to get in the court. Obviously, a lot of COVID regulations, and seemed like a lot of people were queuing, and it was just seemed like it was going to be kind of a more risky strategy in terms of covering it. So I just thought kind of take the more conservative approach, and just to make sure I've definitely got access, because I knew, I knew that I would definitely have access via the video link. But yeah, covered the hearing on Monday. Kind of as soon as it started, I kind of very quickly got a sinking feeling that this wasn't going to go very well. Every single point that the defense had argued in September kind of just was one by one just kind of dismissed by the judge in the case, and at points it was so towards the US that she was, to me, because I'd spent the last week or so kind of preparing for the hearings, I was reading through all the closing submissions and stuff. It was almost as if she was directly quoting the US prosecution's closing submissions, and she used several of the arguments that they raised in her final ruling. So yeah, it was kind of got that feeling as I'm sort of taking my notes of everything that this is definitely not going very well. And then to everyone's surprise, she kind of just made this suddenly kind of flip into to deny the extradition based on medical grounds, based on his mental health. That, as I'm sure everyone's seen, that kind of this prolonged period of isolation has obviously had a quite detrimental impact, and then it was prevented that the sending him to the US would be oppressive, as is the statutory language, would it be oppressive to his mental health, and substantially kind of increase the risk of suicide, or there is a substantial risk of suicide if he's sent. So very surprising ruling, but a welcome one, but with its kind of drawbacks. Obviously, I'm sure you've seen a lot of the kind of discussions about it. I think it's, personally, very good for Assange himself, but in terms of journalism itself, it's quite a troubling ruling in terms of, all of the legal arguments were accepted. The kind of the precedent is now there, even though the actual extradition isn't going to go forward, hopefully. Fingers, depending on.
So yeah, I want to go into that a little deeper right now, because you bring all that up, because it's not a small thing that the judge listed, as you said, basically the American State Department's points of their prosecution points. So before we get into the bail hearing yesterday, what is the significance, even though can't be extradited, what is the significance of the judge saying, oh yeah, I mean, basically saying, he's not protected under freedom of press, and all the points that she made? Because the way she was reading it, I mean, I was reading people who, like Susie Dawson and others who were covering it real time, it was like, oh, brace yourself, she's gonna say he's getting extradited. But just from a quick legal standpoint, what does this mean that she listed off all these things basically in favor of the prosecution?
It means, I think, a couple of things. In terms of, for Assange himself, it means that the appeal situation is quite precarious, because it's not kind of like we've got these 5 or 6 different arguments that she ruled in favor of to say that he can't be extradited. She picked this kind of one singular point, which, not to kind of diminish its importance, it obviously is an important point, and I think she did make the right judgment on that. But the fact that it's only one out of kind of a handful of things, I think, makes me personally quite nervous for the appeals process, because and just on the bail hearing yesterday, we got a flavor of what the US the prosecutors on behalf of the US, what they're going to argue, and the things that they're going to bring forward. And yeah, it doesn't give you too much kind of confidence in that. And then I guess there's the sort of wider issue in terms of other journalists going forward, in terms of, it's not guaranteed that someone else in that position will have similar mental health. So, for what's going to be stopping them being sent to the US if they're kind of charged under similar circumstances.
Okay, so then let's talk about that. Since the ruling yesterday in the bail trial, as you say, is giving us a kind of a flavor of what the U.S. prosecution is going to go for. How does, in addition to what was said in the ruling Monday, how does the Wednesday being denied bail, what specifically did the judge say, first of all, and then how will this affect the appeals process?
So Wednesday kind of started off the usual way with prosecution laying out their case, why he should not be granted bail, and then the defense gave their reasons, and then Judge Baresa gave her ruling, which came fairly rapidly, kind of indicating that she, again, I think her decision was made based off of the submissions that she'd been given, so it wasn't too much for her to decide on the actual day. And basically the reasoning was based on all the previous history of trying to evade justice in terms of the Swedish proceedings and how he went into the Swedish embassy, and then also what played quite a significant role is the assistance that Assange gave to Edward Snowden in getting him from Hong Kong to Russia, and the US prosecution used that to illustrate the amount of resources and support that Julian Assange has, and that that those things are still at his fingertips. And so if he was to consider kind of fleeing, again, the argument is that he still does have a lot of support in terms of WikiLeaks and public support and all that kind of thing. So that went against his favor. What the defense argued is that obviously, and I think it was a very valid point, but not accepted, is that actually Assange is now safest in the United Kingdom, because now we have this court order saying that extradition is barred. He is now safe in this territory. If he's discharged in the UK courts, it's much more difficult for him then to be rearrested under the same circumstances. Whereas if he travels to somewhere else, it's kind of carte blanche for the US to arrest him again, or kind of use the security forces of another country to arrest him. Whereas in the UK, he would technically be protected because the court would be he'd be under the protection of the court, and I think also it'd be very brazen from the US to actually kind of go after him again after that court order, because it would just kind of show a flagrant dismissal of what the UK court said. So that's what the defense argued, that actually now his incentive to abscond is gone, because he's now actually the safest in the UK. They mentioned the points about his partner Stella Morris and his 2 young children. Again, that didn't really have too much sway with the judge. She's an extradition judge, and she said this part and parcel of extradition proceedings. I think it must happen in almost every case. You can imagine that when there's an extradition, there's always a family that's affected. And they kind of some low blows from the US prosecution is saying that Assange started this family when he was in the Ecuadorian embassy, knowing that his future is very uncertain. And that's not things that are very great to hear, but I guess that's their job. He's proceeding. So
even the fact that the defense said he has no incentive to leave the UK because it's the safest place for him right now, the judge still then denied the bail.
Yeah.
And what was the concise reasoning for that?
I think basically he's considered a flight risk. I think what they try and memorize exactly what she said. So the US now has a right of appeal, and that if Assange decides to flee again, they would not be given their right of appeal. And so that was given as the reason to ensure that the US has their sort of fair chance to appeal, because they might not get that right if he doesn't stick around for the appeal proceedings. And then there's also other things that were mentioned, I think, that were quite important, and just for people to know generally, is that And the point that was raised by the defense is that it's once you're discharged, like the quote from Edward Fitzgerald, QC, representing Assange, said that almost every canon of English law says that once you're discharged, you should, it's kind of expected that you have liberty, at least to some extent. Obviously, in Assange's case, they were putting forward quite a stringent package, so it was by no means that he was going to be a free man. It was going to be, strict house arrest with a ankle monitoring system, and having to pay sureties of, I don't actually know the exact figure that was put up this time, but when we had a similar situation in 2011 with the Swedish proceedings, I think Assange put up over £200,000. So you'd expect it to be in a similar ballpark. But all those kind of precautions were dismissed, and I guess from the court's perspective, you can almost see why, because it's very similar package to what was all the securities that were given in 2011. I don't think too much has changed because it's as maximal as possible. I don't know what more you can do other than house arrest and checking into a police station every 24 hours and an ankle monitoring system. What more can you do to say that you're staying where you are? And another point that was raised is that the technology for monitoring people has improved, so it's in real time as opposed to kind of having a slight lag. But it was very disappointing. But to be honest, I was expecting that ruling, and woke up on Wednesday with a kind of pretty low feeling in my stomach, thinking this was likely going to be the case.
So what this means then is he has to stay in prison until the appeal happens. Yeah,
exactly. And it's still quite uncertain how long that will take. I've heard, 6 months. I've heard 2 years. I think it probably is kind of towards the lower end of that spectrum. But again, it's he's at the moment he's being solely held for these US charges, so he's not convicted of anything. There's nothing essentially pending that he's accused of. So he's literally just being held for the US to appeal, which is, I don't think I've really ever seen another case like that, where you are discharged by the court and there's an order for discharge, but you're not actually allowed to leave prison. So it's quite a unique situation, but I think something we'll have to kind of continue talking about and fighting for, because essentially he's arbitrarily detained, and it's continuing the arbitrary detention.
Jesus.
I
mean, yeah, so it's like Monday, the no extradition was a kind of a small win, but then ultimately he's still going to be in Belmarsh prison.
That's the case, yeah, and I think a few people have made this point that it does seem to be sort of punishment by process as opposed to actually being sentenced, and I think that's kind of in line with some of the leaked documents that we saw in the past, that it's in terms of kind of US interest, it doesn't matter so much where he's held as long as he's in prison somewhere. And I think, they're definitely achieving that with this case, with the way that they've handled it. And I know in the past I've been someone to kind of steer people away from speculating about the court by actually kind of following Monday's proceedings. You did kind of feel like there was something going on in the background that influenced some of these findings. Just it was kind of so incoherent how everything went in the US's favor, and then this kind of, on this point, it was kind of denied, and it almost makes me think that I would hate for this situation to happen, but it was almost done on purpose this way, because, for example, because now that it's gone in Assange's favor, they can't really appeal any of the other points that went. I have to check this, but they can't appeal the points that went against them in terms of all the rulings that the rates are made. They went in favor of the US, but now there's no really chance of appeal for that. The only kind of the issues that will come up in the appeal will be just this one point. So it's kind of like this is all accepted now, and then this is the single point of challenge. And then, like I said earlier, it can be quite, it just increases the chances that it can be overturned. The only positive things I think is that it's, and I'm basing this off what the kind of lawyers said in court. I don't think there's ever been a decision that's been overturned based on Section 91, which is the section of the law that prevented Assange from being extradited. That's the one to do with mental health, etc. So there's been a few decisions that have prevented people from being extradited on that thing, and it's never been overturned at appeal. So that's one kind of positive factor in this. But again, it could take a few more months that Assange is kept in this situation, and someone that's spoken about his mental health. I can't imagine anything worse than having that kind of decision on Monday, and then you're kind of brought back down to a pretty crappy place on Wednesday. So and the only other thing I'll add is that London is really freezing right now. It's so cold. I feel bad sometimes that I kind of wake up in the morning and my instinct is to complain, but I've got a nice bed and central heating, etc. Situation in Belmarsh, I can only imagine is much worse. So yeah, it's still not a great situation, unfortunately.
So yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like Wednesday's bail ruling was sort of revealing their long play of we're going to just keep them in prison as long as we can, regardless of, and because the main thing is to dissuade any other whistleblowers, really. I mean, that seems like to me is the point of the United States empire, is to say, well, this is what happens if you reveal our war crimes or whatever, is we're just going to make you rot in prison as long as we possibly can, and just do this. I mean, because I didn't have a lot of faith in this female judge at all. And it feels, that feels accurate after yesterday. And there's no appeal process for the bail, right? Like once the ruling on the bail is made, it's it?
No, there will be, actually, and I forgot to mention that. So, and because that's, I guess, a more timely issue, we're expecting that as soon as next week, actually. So that's also another, I guess, grain of hope for us, is that as early as next week, that decision will get a second hearing. So yeah, we're still waiting for confirmation about that. I sent a few emails to the lawyers today, but I haven't heard anything back. But yeah, hopefully that's very early. And again, just these on bail applications, these things are kind of given priority because it's to do with liberty and that kind of thing, whereas actually appealing a whole decision takes a few more months, and obviously there's a lot more preparation that kind of goes into it, whereas with bail it tends to be a much kind of quicker turnaround, and that is a positive thing.
So I don't know how this process works in the UK, but will it be the same judge for the bail appeal hearing?
I don't believe so, no. It will go to the High Court. So and I believe that District Judge Barata is only at the forgetting the word the lower level of the court. Sorry, the magistrate's court. Sorry, completely blanked on the word. Yeah, it will be a different judge, definitely, and I think actually it will be 3 judges if it does go to appeal. There's a step before it even gets accepted for appeal. Is first there's a decision on whether the application is accepted or not. I think it might be a little bit different with appeals. With bail. I know with the actual decision regarding the appealing of the decision, it will take an application before it, and then that has to be approved or declined before the actual appeals hearing takes place. Whereas with bail, because I think it might be a much more simpler issue, it might just be kind of straight to a hearing with a judge or 3 judges. I've never actually covered any appeals before, so that'll be kind of a first if that happens. So it'll be interesting to see. But
so when do you think we would have an answer if there's going to be a bail appeal hearing, and when it would be?
Yeah, so I don't have a date confirmed, but it would be expecting it to be scheduled next week, early part of next week. And it would be, I mean, if the decision goes in Assange's favor, he would be released immediately, or, you know, within a few hours, etc. If it's not, we'd have to wait for, I don't think he'd have another sort of chance to, you know, secure his liberty until the appeal process is complete.
Okay. So, I mean, having covered this whole case this whole time, many times you were actually in the courtroom, and I know because of COVID you were doing this virtually this time, but what do you, I mean, it obviously feels like, as you've said, and others of us in the, you know, in the pro Assange camp have said, that obviously the State Department is wielding a lot of power, not just obviously with their, you know, lawyers pushing their prosecution claims, but it feels like this judge, this woman who read that on Monday and then denied extradition, obviously she's getting orders or being pushed by forces. She's not coming to this decision on her own. So it doesn't feel like to me. I mean, what are you getting, having been there and seeing it?
Yeah,
from that.
I always resisted that temptation to say that, just because I don't want to say anything I kind of don't specifically know. And I think, to be fair to her, you know, she could have extradited him and she didn't. So I think, you know, credit should be given where it's due, even though it might be fractional. And I remember actually vividly kind of having this thought, is that her voice was actually trembling. She's quite an assured, you know, she's a judge and former barrister, you know, she's quite an assured woman, confident and very sort of direct and commands a lot of authority. But her voice was actually, you know, trembling as she was giving that final part where she was saying that he wouldn't be extradited. I thought it was quite a fascinating moment. You know, she was actually, I think, forget what word it was, but there was a long pause before she actually said the final words. She was kind of halfway through her sentence and then stopped and kind of slowly got it out. And it was, you know, really kind of telling. I don't know, telling of what, but it was telling of something that, you know, must have been a lot of emotions and things going through her mind at that point in time.
Well, that's fascinating. See, that's the thing we're not going to get just reading about this, is that obviously, yeah, if you're a judge, you're going to be pretty assertive. And so she read all of the other stuff fairly in her traditional sort of assertive manner. And then when she gets to the, he's not going to be extradited, her voice was trembling. Yeah,
I mean, maybe trembling's a bit too strong, but there was like a slight kind of slight stammering and kind of, you know, uneasiness about it, or kind of uncertainty. But I mean, it is a big decision to make, and, you know, I think it was courageous of her to do that. Obviously, would have liked the other points of law to be dealt with in a, you know, more equitable way, but unfortunately not. And I guess the other point that's worth mentioning is that obviously me and you have talked a lot about the sort of spying in the embassy and UC Global and a lot of these, you know, assassination plots, etc. The kind of another disappointing part of the ruling was that this was almost completely ignored and even almost justified, saying that, oh, she actually used a CNN article that was, I'm sure you probably remember this, that said that Assange had turned the Ecuadorian embassy into sort of his command station for kind of election meddling, etc. You know, she used that as justification for saying that, you know, this is probably why the US did what they did, and it's within their right, which is completely legally untrue. It's a breach of Geneva Conventions on Diplomacy, and aside from the breaches on Assange's personal rights and his sort of attorney privilege rights.
Okay. I mean, yeah, there's so many things that have just been, like you said, ignored, and how the U.S. has treated him and just abandoned all sorts of rights. So I don't know, man. Yeah, and I can respect the fact that you, as a journalist, don't want to get into.
I mean, yeah, if I had the information, I would of course be more than willing to provide it. But it's just I try and not say things that I don't know to be true.
Right.
All I would say is that, and I'm not sure if I've mentioned this on your show before. Actually, it's probably worth mentioning, is that in the last few months or so, I've started to work with a group of investigative journalists, and we're going to be focusing sort of solely on the Assange case. And part of what we're doing is seeking out sources and information and documents to see if undue pressure was placed. So perhaps it's better to say that it's more of an unanswered question at the moment. I think in a case of this magnitude, it'd probably be naive to say that there's been no political corruption or political manipulation at all. There very well could be, and we'll look for it, and I think it's good to look for it. But as of yet, it's we haven't seen it in this particular case. But it is worth noting, actually, just come to mind, that Stefano Marizzi, who's an Italian journalist who formerly worked for La Repubblica, quite close friends with Assange, spent a lot of time with him in the embassy, etc. She's recently acquired another document by FOIA. She's been having kind of lots of these FOIA battles with the UK Crown Prosecution Service. She's obtained another FOIA, which kind of says that Sweden tried to kind of make sure that he didn't have an appeals process in 2011, so that there is some sort of, so that it wouldn't go to the European Court of Human Rights. So once a decision had made, there was sort of pressure to try and kind of get on with it as soon as possible. So, that's one example where there obviously is some level of political manipulation going on. And yeah, it's likely that it could be the case in the current proceedings, but we have to search them out. And I guess if there's by happenstance anyone from the Crown Prosecution Service listening, you want to get in touch about something you've seen, then please get in touch. But
right,
we'll give them the benefit of the doubt for now.
And what is the tone of just, I don't know, the people in the court, the people in London, just that since you're there on the ground, is there like an overall sense of this are the people in London like not paying attention to this? Are they like really mad, or is there a big division? Like, oh, he's guilty, oh, he's innocent. Like, what is your sense of it living in London where all these trials have been taking place?
I generally actually feel that the support for him is quite widespread. I mentioned this even more mainstream newspapers now have become much more vocal than they have been. Perhaps a little bit, it's way too late, but it's, we'll take it. I know sometimes people will kind of call them out and say, why haven't you been there earlier, etc., which is fair enough. But they're writing editorials, they're writing kind of critical pieces at the moment. So for me, it's worth encouraging. I wasn't actually there on Wednesday, so I didn't kind of get to gauge people's reactions to what happened with the bail hearings. But it is worth noting that the sort of activists and supporters have been, absolutely incredible. The amount of dedication that they give is, I personally couldn't do it. In terms of both Monday and Wednesday, there were people queuing at the court from 4 a.m. And I don't know if you've heard, in the UK now we've got the government keeps making up these different tiers of COVID restrictions that we're, first we had a maximum of 3, and then they invented a tier 4, which was more severe. And in the last few weeks, they've invented another tier 5, which is, even though pretty much all our kind of liberties have been restricted as it is, they've somehow upped it again to the point that, you can't leave except for very few circumstances. But despite that, I'd say, upwards of 100 people were outside the court on both days. Well, on actually Monday, there'd probably be, a few hundred there. Wednesday was probably a similar turnout. I believe actually 7 people got arrested by the police for breaching COVID regulations, and including a 92-year-old man, which I'm not sure if you saw the video or not, but that was kind of going around. And he's another example of someone that's been incredible. Eric Levy deserves a massive applause. He's, every single Saturday he's attending. There's a group of people that go to Belmarsh, and they hold a protest there, and then they make their way to Piccadilly Circus in central London. He's there, and then he makes his way to central London. He's at every single court proceedings without fail. At 92 years old, it's quite remarkable. He's got a better attendance record than I do, so have to give it up to him.
Yeah,
many more like that.
Yeah, I mean, it is the global reach of the Assange supporter is amazing. I was talking to Susie Dawson on Monday when they said he wasn't going to be extradited, and she just said, it's literally millions of people all around the world that have helped push for this, which it is. I mean, it is amazing. I mean, it is like, I've met Assange supporters as a comedian traveling. I mean, in Russia, when we did a tour of shows last November in Australia, I mean, the people for Assange were at every city, and having spoken at an Assange protest in San Francisco a year and a half ago. Like, it is impressive. It is impressive to see. So, and when Susie Dawson brought me in to do Unity for Jay, the people that were on those calls, Chris Hedges, Ray McGovern, Vivian Kubrick, it's impressive. And it also just shows how significant this case is. So, all right. I mean, I appreciate your time, man. And I know it's starting to get a little late there, but just before we go, what are your thoughts on where do you think this is? I know you don't like to get into the prediction game, but just, I mean, because it's not like some sports contest where you just predict it. But what are you seeing, and what do you think that what does the defense have left, in their arsenal for this?
Well, I think now the ball is definitely in Assange's favor in terms of the actual legal proceedings. Like I mentioned before, there's never been a decision that's been overturned on this particular ruling. The case law is quite clear that in terms of on this particular point of law, the weight should be given to the district judge who actually heard all the evidence, because we had 4 medical experts, 2 for the defense, 2 for the prosecution, and we had also experts talking about the US prison conditions. So when it goes to the appeal, the appeals judges won't have that information to hand. They'll just they'll have it in statement form and etc. So the norm is to give the weight to the original ruling of the judge, and it's their the presumption is that they've done their job correctly. And I would say they have. Unfortunately, I've not had a chance to look at the actual legal arguments that the prosecution are going to make, because I've taken a note of what they said that they were going to raise, and I want to compare it to what was in Berater's ruling and in the original submissions about this original point of law. So that'll be interesting to see if they do actually genuinely have a case. Very quickly, the defense said that, we agree with how the judge kind of ruled on this point. I don't know if it's worth getting into too much of the nitty-gritty, but there's something called, so essentially the law that stops Assange being extradited is that the court has to define that it's a substantial risk. It can't just be that there's a tangible, some sort of minuscule risk. It has to be like quote unquote substantial. And then there's a test called the Turner test, which has 6 parts to it, which is how to establish if it's substantial or not. And so in her ruling, Berater would have kind of gone through those 6 steps and outlined how she's, applied this formula to make her decision. And what the US have said is that they feel that the way she's applied this formula is not how the original ruling was intended. Whereas the defense is saying, she's done the judgment correctly in this case. But I have to actually go and kind of read the specifics of the law and what each side have argued on that point before I can really give any more insight. But I think the ball is in Assange's favour. He's had the order of discharge. It's just kind of the crappy situation of staying in a maximum security prison in these circumstances, which I think is kind of everyone's next kind of goal to get him out.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, Tareq, so much for coming on the show, and really appreciate all the work you're doing as a journalist. And where can people check out? Because I know you have written articles, all this. Where can they follow your work?
So it's tareqhaddad.com and on Twitter, Tareq_Haddad.
Awesome. Yeah, everybody, I just put it on the screen right now. You can see his website, tareqhaddad.com. So thank you so much. Appreciate the work you're doing, and we'll have you back on the show, and hopefully it'll be with some good news that he got the bail appeal. He's out and with his family. All right, man. Have a good night. Thanks a lot, Tareq.
Appreciate it.
So that was Tareq Haddad, everybody. Check out his work. If you're new to what he's doing, he's done some fantastic work. He was working for Newsweek and started talking about the OPCW report and how people within the OPCW were not being honest, basically, about the Syria gas attacks. And so he's really done fantastic work, and he's really been one of the many, many indie journalists that have been covering Assange, fairly and on the right side, and not just smear pieces like that CNN piece or whatever. It's all that nonsense. So it's really great to have him on the show. And he's another person you want to support, yeah, it's we are in crazy times. We are in crazy times, but there's a lot of activists, and I've met a handful or a fair amount of the Assange activists and the indie journalists that are covering this. And so, it's really great, what they're doing. And again, Susie Dawson, I was introduced to her 2.5 years ago through Elizabeth Lee Voss. They were working together, and then I interviewed Susie, and I didn't even know who she was. And we started talking, and, she started inviting me on Unity for Jade, this monthly live stream. And, it was really cool to see everybody rally around it. And then, so I've it's a testament to who Assange and everybody at WikiLeaks are, the work that they've done, because it has inspired so many people. And it is, and the way he's been targeted and attacked, and, Susie's been targeted, and it really, and here's a YouTube link of the London Gospel Choir serenading Julian at Christmas. So yeah, I've been blessed doing this show. I never would have met these kind of people just being a comedian. I met some cool people being a comedian for sure, but like independent journalists and activists and whistleblowers and stuff, that those people have just been amazing, and getting to interview and talk with somebody like Tareq. And I hope when things open up, Ron and I can go to the UK and do shows there and meet him in person. You know, meeting Susie in Russia in person last year was fantastic. And, you know, she introduced me to Peter Lavelle. And so she's really been amazing she's very good at sort of connecting activists and journalists and, you know, because she's has more experience with it. And so yeah, it's really, really cool. Yeah, and then follow. I'm putting up Kate's Tareq Haddad. Follow Tareq, like this. You know, so one of the reasons why I say, you know, follow somebody like Tareq, and this is part of the vote with your dollars thing that I talk about. Sort of the overall theme is, so we're all up against this ruling class and their billions of dollars to push out bullshit propaganda and all the corporate media. So when you stop giving money, subscribing to the big media outlets, and now I would even include TYT in that. Now I would cancel my TYT membership. And you know, we're all starving for like real facts, real journalism, real stuff. And Tareq Haddad, they're out there, you know, and he was working with Newsweek and had to leave Newsweek because they just, you know, they weren't being honest. So it's the vote with your dollars thing is kind of an all-encompassing term to get everybody to think about how, you know, we all feel like, oh, I'm just one person, I'm alone, I have no say. But like, you know, you pull your money out of the big bank and put it into a credit union. That's a voting with your dollars. You unsubscribe to some, you know, YouTube channel like TYT that's just pushed to just MSNBC now because that subscribe number is valuable. I'm here to test that. You unsubscribe to that, and then you start, you know, rather than clicking on, you know, nonsense articles pushed out by the corporate media, you click on and you read and you give your time. I know everybody's time is valuable to somebody like Tareq Haddad and support him. So it's all of those things. We have so much say in than we think when we get together. So all right, let's read a couple of super chats. The Natural Progressive Roar Media, what's up? How you doing, Chris? Oh, I think I owe you an interview or something. We're going to do it in the holidays. I'm sorry, Chris. God damn it. But check out Natural Progressive Roar Media. If there's any other super chats. And again, that interview that I just did with Tareq, I will drop that probably either today or tomorrow, probably tomorrow. Just that interview as a separate clip to watch. Sharif Snugs, what's up, dude? Shave your knuckles for justice. Graham, the squad is trying to impeach Trump. Why? He lost. It's over. He's out. Quit this theater. Do your job and get Medicare for all on the floor now. Yeah, I know. It's I mean, I get, like, after yesterday, I mean, there's a legitimate case to be made for, like, these next 2 weeks we can't have Trump in power because he's, you know, he incited that riot and overthrow yesterday, and so we got to get him out of there. And they might. I mean, it's just because Trump's going to try to do crazy shit in the next 2 weeks, but. And, you know, what happened yesterday was nuts, man. Was nuts. And I have, you know, a range of emotions about it. But I agree with you. We need Medicare for all, you know? And that's how you defeat Trump and his insane legacy. And if you really want to show, oh, you're so much better than the Republicans, then say we're the party that gave you free health care, you know, but they're not going to do it. It is just more political theater. I mean, the impeachment from a year ago was ridiculous political theater and more distractions. And, you know, I mean, yesterday was fucking crazy, man. The last time people took over the Congress, the Capitol building was in the 1800s, you know. So yesterday wasn't just it was a big deal, man. But I agree with you. It's just more, I mean, yeah. Like, I'd love to see him taken out in handcuffs. So that would be sweet. But even if they do all that, like you say, we still need Medicare for all. There's still people hungry. All these evictions are looming. Like, all that stuff's still there. It's still happening. There's people living in 10 cities. It's all still happening, man. You just make great point. Did Graham talk about the GOP congresswoman saying Trump should resign? I haven't gone into any of that. The law is the law. He can still abuse the law to hurt us, but we can use the law to correctly remove him. Yeah, I don't know what specifically the laws are. If you can just say he's not fit to be president, I think Mike Pence has to do that. I don't know. It's insane. I know. Let's read. There might be some other super chats I missed. Yeah, there's a bunch I missed. Okay. Sharif Snugs, boom. Shave your knuckles for justice. Would a march on Washington for Medicare for all, if organized, help our movement, or is America too divided for a coalition? I think yes, it would. I mean, America's pretty divided, but I think Medicare for all, and especially if it's organized not as a Democrat issue, but as an American people, and everyone's welcome on this Medicare for all. This is for all Americans. Medicare for all Americans. We all need health care. And if you did it that way, you know, it'd be a lot of organizing. You could and really pushed it. You could get a lot of people there. I think you could. And I think it would be a powerful thing because we need health care. People are dying. People were dying before COVID because they didn't have health care. So it's like I think, you know, it's an important thing. I mean, ultimately it would help our movement for sure. And it might be the thing that unifies the country. It might be the thing that helps with the division in this country because it's Medicare for all. It's not Medicare for all blue state people or, you know, it's everybody would get this. Everyone would benefit from this. And again, if staged correctly, it could be used to unify people. Because you could say both parties have been blocking this. Both parties need to give us, the American people, this. It could work in that way. So I think that actually is a good idea. You know, imagine if we got 100,000 people marching on the Capitol building, not to take it over and wear fucking animal outfits and just take fucking photos in Pelosi's office or whatever. But like, we're not leaving till we get Medicare for all, you know, we're not leaving. So that needs to happen. 210 likes. Thank you. Tangina Hayes. Thank you for watching. Thank you everybody watching on the Rockfin and on the Facebook. Shane Graham, Shaving Knuckles for Justice. Thanks for supporting the show. I don't really have anything to say that you haven't already said this week, but thanks, dude. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, yesterday was nuts, man. I had to kind of like, after doing the live stream, and I just had to kind of like just think about what happened yesterday. And like I said, I had all these emotions about it. I mean, it's like, this is what happens with crazy Trump. This is what happens when the Democratic Party shuns progressives. We could have a progressive in the White House right now. Bernie could have won in 2016. We wouldn't even be close to this. And it's also like, look how dangerous some of these people are. Look how crazy it is. But also, look at you're going to tell me there's no systemic racism in this country and in our police departments. You look at yesterday, give me a fucking break. If Black Lives Matter would have done that, they would have been it was just like unreal how much white privilege yesterday was. How come everyone who got inside the Capitol building, how come they weren't arrested? How come they weren't arrested? Like, Black Lives, I mean, all those cops that show up with those zip tie things. Black Lives Matter protests, people get arrested just for not leaving, for blocking a street. So you're trying to tell me that blocking a street is worse than taking over the Capitol? So there's all that needs to be talked about. Cops that let them in, cops were taking selfies. Like, how come everyone that set foot in that Capitol building wasn't arrested? They roll up fucking police buses when there's a Black Lives Matter to just arrest people. Shit, man, the Convo Couch people were arrested at a Black Lives Matter protest in LA. Like, I mean, maybe many of you have been arrested. I've just like, how they were able to get away with that is unbelievable to me. So there's that. Like, everyone's all up in arms when people, smash buildings and stuff like that. And that's not good. I'm not in favor of that. But then that's worse than taking over the Capitol building? Okay. And it looks like there's even some footage of cops maybe opening, like letting the barricade. So there's all of that needs to be answered for. What the fuck were the DC police? Where were the Capitol police? Like, what? They didn't plan for this? So that's so much crazy white privilege about yesterday. But then when there is some footage of cops, beating the shit out of some of the Trump supporters, when I watch that, I go, okay, Blue Lives Matter. Now you're going to listen to what we've been saying about defund the police and the cops are out of control. This is how American cops operate. And I thought all you Blue Lives Matter people, you're the law. You obey the law. All these bullshit commentary from right wingers during the summer of the George Floyd protests and everything going, oh, the Black Lives Matter, but they don't, if they just adhere to the law, there wouldn't be all these problems. And it's like, no. And yesterday showed several things. So at all the protests I was at and friends of mine were at, everything was peaceful until the cops showed up. The cops showed up and agitate the problem. So cops yesterday didn't really agitate the problem. They just let them run in. Why didn't the cops respond with all this force the way they do at a Black Lives Matter protest? And yesterday went off the rails. It could have gone off the rails a lot worse. I mean, because some of them had guns, is that why? I mean, there's this footage of this Capitol police officer. He's got a baton and he's like, stay back, stay back. And then he runs, he turns his back and runs. And then they follow him and he goes, stay back, stay back. Why didn't he have his gun out, go, anybody steps forward, I'm going to drop you, right? Isn't that what a cop would do if they broke into something? You're going down. That's what cops. I was like, it was like crazy to watch. Everyone that broke into the Capitol yesterday should have been arrested. They should all be in jail right now, like they've done with all these other protesters. Many of them peaceful, many of them just peacefully sitting, blocking a street. They get arrested. I mean, that's insane. And the people, the Trump supporters that did get the shit beat out of them by the cops yesterday, good. Now you know. Now you know. Now you know. Still singing that Blue Lives Matter tune? Okay. Your eyes sting from tear gas? Yeah, now welcome. Welcome to the police state of the United States of America. Welcome to that. And, you know, and Trump motivated these people. He needs to stand. Anyone that's like Giuliani, the crazy shit, he said they should go to trial for that. They should go to jail, right? Because that's how they treat lefty activists. You incited a riot. You this and that. Look at this Julian trial. So they need to go to trial. But I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a little part of me that was like, oh, Congress and the Senate were scared. I mean, a bunch of Republicans and Democratic senators and Congress people were all scared yesterday. Yeah. Huh. So yesterday was just a specific group of American people, but there's way more people who are hungry, who are back on rent. I mean, Pelosi and Mitch McConnell, I did a video on it. Both of their homes were vandalized. And on Pelosi's home, they spray painted cancel rent. So I hope these Trump supporters realize that they are in a class warfare. Yeah, yesterday was nuts. Shane Graham, thank you, sir. Shave your knuckles for justice. You're making Gotham great again. Imagine if AOC had said, all right, I need 10,000 of you to meet me at blank so we can march to the Capitol, Medicare for all. The right knows how to use their movements. Dude, that is so true. It's so true. Like we were talking about that yesterday, man. It was like the right, they protest, some crazy shit. They think the election was rigged. Okay. That was crazy. They protest in Michigan because they couldn't get a haircuts, but they organize and get together. Imagine if AOC said that. Meet me on the steps of the Capitol and we're going to protest Medicare. We demand Medicare for all. I'm going to force the vote. I demand this. And she could do that. She has 11 million Twitter followers. So all that like, she's being targeted because she's a woman of color. No, she's the most famous congressperson we've ever had. Like, come on. So she has this power that she refuses to use. Trump and the right have power and they use it for evil, crazy shit. Hey, Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. I mean, why can't AOC do that for something good? Why can't these so-called progressives do that for good? All right, everybody, if we don't get Medicare for all, join me. We're going to have a peaceful march on the Capitol steps. Everybody, join me. I want Medicare for all Americans. Join me. It would be so powerful, man. You're so right. It would be so powerful if she said that. She said, 10,000 people meet me. There would be 100, 150, 200,000 people. She could do that. She doesn't want to. It's because she's not a real progressive. She's not a real activist. Right? Underhill, boom. Shaving knuckles for justice. This is what happens when you teach several generations the incorrect definition of the word fact. Conservatives have been insurgents since Nixon. Yeah, I know. And it's again, it's the ruling class's way of keeping us divided. They want us red state, blue state. I'm telling you, the minute America, and it's by design, they don't want, red state, working class, white conservative Second Amendment people to realize they're in class warfare. And they don't want them to join with working class lefties and people of color. And they don't want that. Shit, they killed Fred Hampton for that. Fred Hampton got murdered for that. So they don't want that, man. They need us fighting with each other. So it's insane. Fill the streets of DC around Capitol and the White House with millions who will not leave until we get Medicare for all. Violence not needed. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. How are you going to pay for Medicare for all? Oh, less war budget. Democrats in Congress got no problem voting for the war budget. Okay. Thanks, Kate. I got your text. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, 4 people are dead. I'd rather leave the USA than unite with racists. I mean, I feel that I'm torn on that too. I mean, part of me is like, no, I don't want to side with racists. I don't want to. And part of me is like, I mean, so like die hard crazy. I mean, I don't know. Again, I guess I look back at what Fred Hampton did, leader of the Black Panther Party, went to a bunch of Southern whites in Chicago, many of them openly racist, and said, excuse me, capitalism causes racism. So if Fred Hampton can do that, Black Panther's not really known for like reaching out their hand to white racists. I understand. I totally get why. The fact that Fred Hampton did that, I don't know. I understand the hell with these people. This country's collapsing. I want to get out of here. I don't know. I mean, I've said it. I feel very torn. I said but if we can wake up these Trumpers to the fact that they're in class warfare, then we could really change this country. Because if it collapses into a civil war, it's going to be a nightmare for any of us living here. It's going to be awful. Civil wars are brutal. And we're already in it, kind of. And, it's a big country. And I don't know. It's America. Like I said, America's an addict. They're like an addict. And, do we stay and have an intervention and try to get them sober? Or do we need to get out of the way while it hits rock bottom? So I don't know. Spectrum 86, Shaving Knuckles for Justice. Trump voters are not working class. Average yearly income, 70,000. Low income voters voted Biden. Well, I mean, maybe. I don't know where you get that statistic. You can't say all Trump supporters are this or that, or all Biden supporters are this or that. You have a lot of very wealthy people that voted for Trump. You have a lot of upper middle class white people that voted for Trump. Absolutely. You have a lot of rich people that voted for Biden. I mean, all the blue check neoliberals in Hollywood, they're all 6- and 7-figure income people. And you have a lot of working class people that voted for Biden, but you also have a lot of working class people that voted for Trump. I mean, we can't, I'm not making excuses for the Trumpers at all, but we can't ignore the fact that there are a lot of people who have been completely abandoned in this country of all ethnicities. And that's what happens when you have no real populist progressive leadership, nobody actually helping the people, then people go to a demagogue. This has happened throughout history. I mean, Nazi Germany was eviscerated and because of the Depression and ruling elites not giving a shit. And Hitler came in and said, I'm going to restore you to glory. I mean, and when people are desperate, they'll go to a fucking demagogue. They'll go to a crazy snake oil salesmen when they're desperate. And a lot of people in this country of all ethnicities are desperate. And not either or, and there's also just a lot of racism in this country. But again, I would go defer to Fred Hampton. Much of the racism in this country was there because of capitalism. You know, this country's the imperialistic genocidal start of this country. That's all early capitalism. We're going to bring slaves. That's cheap labor. That's capitalist profit. Oh, we need slave labor. It's cheap labor. We don't have to pay them wages. We just got to feed them. All right. We'll treat them like shit and pay them and feed them as least amount that we can. Great. We want this land. We're just going to take it from the indigenous people. We're just going to take it. We're still doing that. Capitalism is still doing that today. You know, so maybe America will really finally realize it needs socialism. I don't know. I don't know, man. Ugh. And they're scary folks, and they love the guns, and they don't want to listen to reason. And there's some crazy shit for sure. No two ways about it. DC Punk, what's up, dude? Shave your knuckles for justice. Thank you for supporting the show. We got 323 people watching, everybody, which is great. 263 likes. Let's get the likes over $300 or 300. Let's get the likes over 300. I wish the left would make a clear distinction between themselves and fascism in their beliefs. Unionizing, organizing, mutual aid, that's how we win. We by no means need to praise the fascist uprising. I know. I mean, and fascism gets a stronghold when we don't have the things you're talking about, DC Punk. I mean, again, if we had unions have been deliberately eviscerated over the last 4 or 5 decades in this country. Because unions had built-in organizing. Hey, this union supports whatever, the steelworkers union, the whatever union, all these unions support Medicare for all. Well, now they just, the whole membership is on board. So now you have these huge blocks of people. Unions are also really great at organizing, saying, hey, we're going to this protest in support of this thing. When you have less than 7% of the country in a union, literally, union membership in this country is like 7%. You can't get messages out. You can't organize. You can't do anything like that. And you're right. That's what we need. If we had our left should be, and what it is like Medicare for all, $15 an hour minimum wage, student debt forgiveness, free college, ending these wars, cutting the military budget in half, Green New Deal that has a bunch of good paying union jobs to rebuild our infrastructure sustainably. Those are all populist progressive platforms, not just burn it all down. We have to unite with racists. They are not the enemy. They are the working class. They aren't Nazis yet. Yeah, I know. This is like the window's closing. We need to. The fascism is people need to read some history books, man. Sharif Snugs, boom. Making Gotham great again. Graham, if there was a mass exodus in America from the working class, would America try to block it? Like how the government stopped Marcus Garvey's Black to Africa movement. Oh, meaning people leaving, if the working class was leaving America. Would America try to block it? No, why would America interfere? They're just going to let us, we're a democracy, Sharif. We're just going to have freedom. Everyone's going to be able to do it. Yeah, fuck. Ugh. Yeah, I mean, that's a great example, learning historically how they, what they did to Marcus Garvey, because you can't have black people in America leaving to go to Africa, who's going to fill the jails? Who's going to fill the for-profit prisons? Who's going to justify spending more money on, police and, Biden's 94 crime bill? And yeah, when you start looking at it, they would try to block it, And if America completely collapses and it just turns into a lot of Americans are going to be trying to leave. And if they start rounding up journalists, I'm going to split. But, if it gets that bad, people are going to be like, shit, we got to get out of here. But then countries are going to stop wanting us. Like Canada is going to be like, no way, forget it. And I don't know, man. I don't know how this is going to shake out. I really don't. I don't know that America in its current form is going to still be here in 5 to 10 years. We might have to split up. I don't know. Maybe, but we need some real specific person to come in and unify people. The only person that pops to my mind right now is Jesse Ventura. He's the only guy I think who could do it. There may be others, and I'm just not aware of them. But he's the only guy that could unify a lot of those people from yesterday and lefty progressives. Because if you came to I've said this before, that the Trump supporters, if you came to them with healthcare and jobs and stuff like that, the racism is going to dissipate. And again, I'm a broken record here, but that's what Fred Hampton did. After he had these the first, I think one of the first rainbow coalitions is on YouTube. It's real black and white, grainy. The audio's not great, but you hear Fred Hampton talking, and he got a lot of Southern whites to change their tune on racism. He was able to do that. That's really transformative. Unifying people that are at odds with each other, that's transformative. That's why they had to get rid of him, man. I mean, you look at Nelson Mandela. The guy was called a terrorist. He was a pretty angry young guy, and rightfully so. He wanted to just blow him up and take him down, and he was called a terrorist. Then he was in prison. Then he gets out, and he, for 27 years. It took Nelson Mandela 27 years. And when he came to power, he didn't, and he had people on his side that are like, now you're in power. Let's stick it to the whites. And he said, we're not going to do that. We're going to work together. And there's a lot of justification for him wanting to stick it to white people in South Africa. There's a lot of people, myself included, would have been like, hey, dude, I get it. It's time to, get some payback or whatever. But the reason he got the Nobel Peace Prize was he was trying to heal that country. So that's what it's going to take. It's going to take some healing. It's going to take, and it's got to come from a place of love. And I know it's hard. I have a lot of emotion. I have a lot of anger. It's hard to get over that when you feel like someone or some group has wronged you, or just watching the footage from yesterday. It was hard for me not to be like, what the fucking, take them out, get them, whatever. Like, ugh. But if we want to heal this country, that's what it's going to take. And that's what Gandhi, Buddha, Jesus, I mean, that's what they all talked about. It's why I loved the Star Wars thing as a kid. The dark side is revenge and anger. That's the dark side. I don't know, man. I don't know. I wish there was like a bunch. Yeah. Unregulated capitalism is the cause of every problem we have. Amen to that. Amen to that. Here in Indiana, I can assure you a lot of Trump supporters are very much working class. Yeah. Chris Hedges covered exactly what you are saying about the destitute situation in the U.S., and it regurgitates people like Trump and Biden. Yeah. Because he saw it. He saw it in Yugoslavia, like Slobodan Milosevic. People were in tough situations. And they just, then the fringe crazy right that's been there all along, and they're a really small minority, then they get traction when there's no real populist progressives helping the people out. And then the people who are so desperate go to these freaks. I mean, look how desperate Americans were. Trump is so awful. They overwhelmingly voted for Joe Biden, a Republican who's not going to ban fracking, who wrote the 94 crime bill, who was part of Obama dropping more bombs than Bush, part of the bailout of Wall Street that allowed 6 million foreclosures to happen. That was the savior. That guy's the savior. Again, to quote Malcolm X, the way to get people to run towards the fox is to create a wolf. So Trump is so awful that you run into, Trump is this wolf, you run into the loving arms of the fox of Joe Biden. I mean, shit, it's lesser of two evils, still evil. Melissa H., will anyone ever be allowed to unify us, though? I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know. It's a great question. Every time someone tries to, taken out, man. Malcolm X started to want to unify with MLK, taken out. MLK taken out. Bobby Kennedy, Fred Hampton. I mean, oh, you're unifying? Boom. Karen Grice, Shave Your Knuckles for Justice. Thank you, Karen, for supporting the show. Connie Reed, what's up, Connie? I just called by a legit journalist who needs names for speakers. I was just called by a legit journalist who needs names for speakers at DC rally to publish video name of first early female running for office. Black. Who needs names for speakers at DC rally? You mean names of the people who were speaking yesterday? Is that what you're talking about, Connie? I'm trying to understand this. I'm sorry. Or they're looking for speakers now. Oh, people who were speaking yesterday. I'm not sure. Yeah, even if you don't agree with Ventura, he's consistent. Yeah, he's very anti-war. He's very anti-Wall Street. He's definitely gone more left. He used to be like a libertarian. Now he's like gone more left for sure. Tisha T, boom, Shave Your Knuckles for Justice. Graham, the first things first. You trade the Cadillac for a microphone. They're not going to catch us. We're on a mission from God. You trade the Cadillac for a microphone? They're not going to catch us. We're on a mission from God. Blues Brothers. They killed John Lennon too. Yeah, the guy that wrote Imagine. The guy that wrote the song Imagine was killed. Imagine there's no countries. Imagine there's no religions. It's easy if you try. They killed that guy. Andrew Dwyer, Shave Your Knuckles for Justice. It would be great to hear from John Farina about his overall experience in that mess. Yeah, I know. I just need to make sure, this is from Connie, that there's not another black woman who spoke at DC rally and mentioned running for office. Oh, so what is the name of this black woman that was running for office that spoke yesterday at the DC rally? I don't know. I don't know who that is. Maybe someone in the chat knows, or maybe it's online. What's up, Truth to Tweet? How you doing? Yeah, earlier start time today. Christopher Dobby, what's up? Shave your knuckles for justice. Physical manifestations of obligation. Money. Karen Murphy, boom. Can you get John Sullivan on? John Farina is the status quo cameraman. Yeah, I've watched some of the footage he got. It's pretty amazing. I'm not quite familiar with John Sullivan. Forgive me. Who's John Sullivan? Christopher Dobby, boom. The system needs you to get that. That is the problem. Yeah, I know. Thanks, Graham. Kate helped me because I didn't interpret Bree's comments as a commitment to run, but she hesitated to make a strong statement previously. Okay, cool. Dan Sullivan, what's up, Dan? Shave your knuckles for justice. Ted Lieu sucks, but he's been good on Save Crypto in the past. Please check out EFSF's work on digital rights so that you can nullify any advantages he might have in that area. Love your work. Oh, thanks, Dan. You got it. I will do that. Harry C. Smith, shave your knuckles for justice. The U.S. needs a mother figure. Americans are so damaged and abused and traumatized. You all need a hug from your mama to heal and bring you all back together. I know, dude. America is... And the thing is, like, everyone was like, oh, this just happened under Trump. Look, man, this has been brewing in this country for a long time. The Klan has been in this country for a long time. As a young comedian driving from small town to small town in the 90s, I saw this kind of racism. I saw it all over the place. And I saw these towns start to get closed down because the factory, the mill closed and they didn't have money. I saw this. And people, you know, people in the big cities and stuff don't realize it. And he's out there. I've seen it. I've seen people come up and tell me racist jokes without even realizing that, don't even think it's right. You know, a comedy, say, like having a lot of times at these, like when I first started doing stand-up, I just do gigs wherever I could get them, bars and, you know, lounges and bowling alleys and like downstate Illinois or whatever. And a lot of times they'd have some local MC. Oh, hey, it's comedy night or whatever. And they'd bring a couple people up from the crowd to they'd have a joke off. And they're just regular people from the crowd. And they would just tell regular jokes. Like, why did the guy thing with the thing? Two guys walk into a blah, blah, so-and-so. What's the, you know, what do you call it? Just regular jokes. We call them in stand-up. And I don't know how many times someone would say, I mean, I heard somebody would say a joke and they would use like the N-word in it and didn't think, oh, maybe I shouldn't say that. They would just like say it. Like, I knew black comedians comics would come up to them and say jokes with the N-word in them and not real. So the systemic racism and also people, you know, working class people feeling completely abandoned and the anger that comes from that's been brewing around America for a long time. No more mama bear. We want Medicare. DC Punk, boom. Dylan Burns, large Twitch streamer, lives in DC, was in the thick of it, would be a good guest. Okay, cool. Thanks, DC Punk. I appreciate that. It's still like, does Graham stream on Twitch? No, I do not. I've been told. I haven't looked into it really. I'm not that familiar with Twitch. And I know many of you suggested it, and I appreciate that. I just haven't looked at it. Harry C. Smith, what's up, dude? Making Gotham great again. Where were the Metropolitan Police? DC National Guard, the VA State Troopers, VA National Guard, MD State Troopers, and Maryland National Guard, or the Secret Service, or the FBI, or Homeland Security? Yeah, great question. Some of that is my understanding. I mean, first of all, this might be an argument for DC statehood because had someone brought in the National Guard onto DC, they then answer to the president. So the reason why the National Guard wasn't brought in early on was they didn't want Trump to go, okay, now I got an army here. Now my army we're going to hold the Capitol building till they change the vote to say I'm the winner. So that was that reason. And it's a reason why DC should be a state. Because a situation like yesterday is why they had no, because had this happened in a state capital, the governor of that state, let's say the president wanted to take, let's say if DC was a state and everything happened yesterday the way it happened, then the governor of DC could have said, okay, national emergency, the DC National Guard answered to the governor, not the president. So I'm ending this, right? But because the National Guard on DC soil would answer to Trump, they were afraid to do it. But all these other questions are, where the hell was Metro Police? Why weren't there more of them ready for this? There should have just had huge barricades, not just little fences. I mean, they should have been prepared for this. Like they didn't see this coming. Like it's maddening to me. These are all great points. Maryland State Troopers, Maryland. I mean, the DC Police, the secret. So here's who legally, some of these other things, they legally might not have been allowed to be there. I don't know. But so I can't answer those definitively. But one thing I know for certain, the DC Police, the Secret Service, and the FBI and Homeland Security all should have been there. For sure. Now, Maryland and other Virginia and all those other places, I don't know, they might legally not be allowed to be on that server, but it doesn't matter. The organizations I just listed, as you listed, they all should have fucking been there for sure. And they weren't. Yeah, and there was the Capitol Police opened some of the gates for the protesters. That's another thing that was just like, oh, I see. So it's like that then. Okay, got it. Emblem Fate, shave your knuckles for justice. I hate this neolibs don't get it. They can ban Trump. They can ban anyone. Mainstream media has ignored Assange all week. Social media needs to be a utility now. I know, it's such a great point. Yeah, this huge Assange bail hearing happened yesterday. Did we hear about it? No. You got to follow Tareq Haddad and people like that to hear about it. You got to come to this show to hear what happened. I'm grateful Tareq comes on my show, but honestly, he should have been on CNN last night. Like CNN should have had somebody in London covering this. They don't. They just sort of, put it in the ticker maybe. Assange bail denied. What? Wait, what? What? It's nuts, man. But yeah, you guys are you're asking decent questions. Maybe the lack of police showing up yesterday was by design. Either it's a huge blunder and then a bunch of people need to get fired. Or it was like, hey, we know this will get out of hand. Like, let this happen. It was like, Crazy. Phantom is Phantom. Graham, let's chop it up on the phone this weekend. You got it. Chop it up. All I ever had. Redemption song. Police with humans overwhelmingly support Trump. Yeah, I know. Tisha T, what's up, Tisha? I bet these cops got SCMODs. SCMODs, state, county, municipal offenders data systems. I love in the Blues Brothers, anytime Jake is like mad about something, Elwood always answers with the car. The car is the answer. You know, I hate Illinois Nazis. The car, right? You sold the Cadillac for a microphone and you picked me up in a cop car? I got it at the Mount Prospect police auction. It's got cop shocks, cop tires, cop frame. It's got a 440 cubic inch plant. You're going to make, Tisha, you're going to make me quote Blues Brothers all day? And best of all, he's a Catholic. That's what I thought. When I was growing up, because I was Catholic, we would all say that to each other. Best of all, you're a Catholic. Fucking Nazis won their court case. I quote that movie all day. The use of lethal force has been approved. Jason Burmis, boom. Jason, what's up? I was on the Capitol yesterday. Ton of footage coming. A lot of distortions in both the mainstream and alternative media. Oh, Jason. Well, what are you doing? You want to come on the show right now and talk for about 15, 20 minutes? Tell me what happened. You got any footage to show me? I can send you a StreamYard thing right now, dude, if you want. Maybe you're not ready, but we could do it later. Sure, send me a link on Twitter. Okay, done. Look at this indie media working together, buddy. Come on. Yeah, if you got some footage teed up to show us, that'd be awesome. I'd love to see, because that's what I was trying to do yesterday. I was trying to get a hold of someone that was there who could show me footage and tell me what they saw. Gina, G, what's up, Gina? How you doing, sweetie? Could you look into what foreign policy nonsense our government was doing while the DC stuff was happening? They may have used the distraction. Oh, look at you, Gina, thinking like a political vigilante. Yes, great point. Because what have I always said on this show? When some crazy thing's happening, what are they doing behind closed doors? Now, maybe nothing because they were all scared and hiding because they were literally under siege. But that's a valid question to ask. Usually it's some sort of manufactured distraction. Yesterday was legit, but it's a good question to ask. It's a good question to ask. I think they were sequestered and hidden during the siege. And when he came back, the only thing I did to my knowledge, but you could be right, they could have done something else. And that's a good question to ask. To my knowledge, all they did was then resume the certification of the Electoral College. That's what yesterday was all about. And that got certified at like 3:45 in the morning Eastern time or something like that. But I love your question. I love where your head's at. I love that connect the dotting you're doing. That's not a sentence, connect the dotting. I'm making up words. Emblem Fate, shave your knuckles for justice. I am not a hateful person. I love everyone, including those Trumpers. Instead of mainstream media insulting them, analyze their needs. Biden will do nothing. It'll get worse. Oh, that's for certain. All right, let me send. Give me a quick sec. I'm going to send this to Jason on Twitter. All right, everybody, give me a quick second. We're going to bring Jason on the show. but I need to step off just for a quick minute. I'll be right back. Kate, tell everybody I'll be right back. We're going to be right back with an interview with Jason Burmis, who was in DC during the takeover of the Capitol building yesterday. We'll be right back in a couple minutes. Hello, everybody. I'm back. 343 people watching. Please hit the like button, or let's get the likes over. What do you say? Let's get them over 400. I'm going to bring Jason Burmis on in a quick second here. All right. Let's do it. Let's welcome to the show, Jason. I can't hear you, brother. I can't hear you. Can everyone in the chat hear him? Yeah. I think you're muted, Jason. All right. We'll wait for him to iron that out. But what we're going to happen, folks, if you're just joining us, my name is Graham Elwood. This is a political vigilante. We're going to bring Jason Burmis on the show. Still can't hear you, Jason. And he's going to show us footage. There we go. I hear you now.
Okay, you got me. All right. Unfortunately, my microphone's not working for some reason, but that's okay. We'll use that. So I got everything kind of blocked off. Why don't I make this into a bigger thing where you don't even have to see my face. You just talk to me and I'll show you what was there. Because I went down to the Capitol to cover this whole thing, and I got on the Capitol. Okay, so I went right up there. You better believe it. What you're looking at right now is actually a sledgehammer being passed up towards a group of people that, if you can see, these are the windows on the upper level of the Capitol. So I made my way almost to the top level. Now I want to say this.
Let me just say I'm going to ask you real quick. First of all, if you're just joining us, political vigilante here with Jason Burmis, who was at the Capitol yesterday when the Trump supporters breached the Capitol and seized it. And he's going to show us footage right now. Jason, first I want to ask you, like, when did you get there? Like, did you see it kind of go from the speech by Trump to the whole, like, give us sort of the picture leading up to this sledgehammer getting passed up?
Yeah. So, because it is pretty wild. So I got here the night before, actually a couple days before, and I got into DC. I was checking out what was going on the night before the rally. I actually went to where the stage was to see where it was going to be held at the Ellipse, all of it. And I got downtown about 8:30 in the morning. Now, by 8:30 in the morning, first of all, cell data was totally jammed, so I was unable to live stream. Any live streamers out there basically were unable to do their job. So instead, I not only caught a bunch with my phone, but I had my pro cameras there and yada, yada, yada. And I ended up filming a lot of footage. So from 8:30 in the morning, I saw what was easily tens of thousands of people turn into well over, I would guess, bare minimum 100, 150K. Now, that some people say that I'm way off on that there's way more people. I didn't have an overhead shot. All I know is I was in a massive sea of people. Now, the road was kind of the breakaway point. So they had it fenced in for Trump when he was there, where there was no backpacks allowed, no selfie sticks. You got wanded, all that stuff. I refused to go in that way, but there was still tens, if not another 75, 80,000 people behind that marker, okay? Trump comes on, he comes on late. Now, they didn't really have the screen set up or even the audio set up for everybody. It was kind of bizarre. You know, you'd think that they would have had more for as many people that were going to be there. But at the same time, there was barely any police presence whatsoever. To give you an example, Graham, they weren't letting backpacks in. I took several pictures of stacks of hundreds of backpacks filled with everybody's stuff. Okay, so they weren't even worried about their stuff getting stolen. They weren't worried about violence. And I'll tell you right now, there wasn't any there. Okay, at the rally, zero violence. In fact, they had laptops out under these Mac laptops, not being guarded at all under this tent. None of those were stolen. For the most part, these people are law-abiding citizens. You get about a half an hour out from Trump's speech ending. And again, I'm in the middle. So I'm just kind of observing. I'm getting to what I can see. And I start seeing people filing out. Okay. Now, Trump was talking about being at the Capitol at 3 o'clock. He's supposed to go on 11. He didn't come on until about 12. He's still not done with his speech. Yet I'm watching now hundreds and then thousands of people leaving his speech. And I'm wondering what is going on. So these people are leaving and the speech is wrapping up. I'm actually with my friend and fellow filmmaker, Dylan Avery, guy behind Loose Change, just put 7 out. And we're kind of making our way back up. And he's saying, well, it looks like they're going to head to the Capitol building. And now more people are walking up the street on my end to the Capitol building. And there's actually another procession of thousands of people at a parallel street that you could see through the intersections walking towards the Capitol building. Dylan starts telling me it sounds like they're taking over the Capitol. I'm getting information they're taking over the Capitol. And I'm like, all right, man, well, if you're going to go catch the train, I got to go cover this. So I start making my way with the one group on the left-hand side, but I'm watching the group on the right-hand side. Now, as I get up there, and I've got about hour and a half, 2 hours of footage. I just showed some on my channel, but there's plenty more to show people. I get up there, and by this time, you've got about the first level. Now, people have already climbed up. The first level of the Capitol's being pretty much taken over. And then on the sides, you've got the stairwells now starting to crowd up. Okay. But you still have a police force, not much of one. Okay. On that second level. So people trying to get to the very top level that you'll eventually see, they're kind of getting maced. So there's a couple cops down there in every intersection. You'll see the cop try to mace people, but it's not really being effective. And eventually they regroup to the right-hand side. Once that happens, there's really only one stronghold where these people are trying to get through. And now I'm going to show people that footage right now. And there's a lot of it. The concerning part of this footage is that there's a sledgehammer involved. Somehow, I mean, from a sledgehammer to bear mace canisters to, yes, violence against police officers, all that happened. And no, I do not believe all of that was planted Antifa. However, I will say this, and I'm going to play this without volume and just start it up for people, that there were certainly times, if you look at the window to the right there, and guys, again, I'm sorry for the nuttiness of the footage, but I'm literally amongst thousands of people being pushed around. And here you go. This is the hole.
Jason, I want to ask you this real quick. How many people did you see carrying guns? A lot? Many? None, few?
Zero. I'll say zero. I don't even know that the police officers themselves had guns. There was certainly, here's the other thing. We all know that the National Guard was supposed to be there. I didn't see one National Guardsman, and I stayed almost until dusk. Okay. And what you're watching is these people trying to get into the holes. And eventually, you know, thank God no one used that sledgehammer. There was at least the discernment not to do that. But yes, the cops get bear maced. They bear mace people. It's hard for me because I watched people starting to smash the windows on the side, Graham, right? Jesus. And there were occurrences where people saw them trying to smash the windows, and other MAGA folks, I guess, ripped those people down, screaming, "We're not violent. We don't destroy property." Now, eventually, first of all, that hole, you're never getting through. There's like 50 cops in that hole. You see that they're trying to get through right there? And basically, they're on barricade duty. So they're rotating out military style 5-10 minutes at a time, you know, holding their ground. However, on the left-hand side, eventually they do smash out the window and people do start entering the Capitol. Now, this is apparently long after the shooting and long after the photos that you've seen there. But I mean, to say, I'll say this, to say that all the people were trying to incite violence is wrong. To say that none of them were being violent is also wrong. The truth lies somewhere in the middle. And what that guy's coming down from the top level. No one ever rushed the top level, Graham. And the top level, maybe I saw 40, 50 police officers there. There's literally thousands of people on the Capitol. If they wanted to overrun those people, they would have been more than able to do so, yet they didn't. So I'm kind of torn because at one point I'm hearing that everybody there, and I don't know if that includes myself as a journalist, was part of an insurrection and they should be charged with domestic terrorism. Now, there are other weird things I saw there. I saw people ripping up the floorboards, cutting cords, Graham. I have video of that. Cords to what? I couldn't tell you. No one gets much farther than right here. You know what I mean? They never take this stronghold. You'll see, you know, some mace coming through, et cetera, and things like that. I've got more video of people actually getting up there and like throwing fists and hammering the police with sticks, et cetera. So just again, say there was no violence, I think is being disingenuous. I think it is being dishonest. You know, this clip alone is 6 months. If you're looking to the left, that's the bear mace canister that I was talking about. They will be spraying that at the police officers shortly. Wow. All right, inside the hole. Now, enough mace came out where, you know, you saw people crying. You saw people in red face. They're reporting 4 people dead. Well, I can tell you that aside from the girl shot, I had at least one eyewitness tell me that a man had a heart attack there, and that's how he died. And right. In this chaos, as this happened, they let off concussion grenades. There you go. There's one of the sticks. There's the guy's trying to beat this guy. I mean, there he is trying to beat the cops with a stick. This is real, folks. This isn't fake. It happened. And I would assume that, you know, those 2 guys didn't make it because they were in this crowd and they got hit with either a concussion grenade or a gas grenade or something like that. You know, it's one of those things where I want to put myself in the middle of it because I want to know what to believe. I don't want to be told the narrative, especially about something as important as this. And there you go. There's the bear mace coming in. As you saw from the side, you can't, again, you only see about half screen, but there it gets sprayed in again. Mm-hmm. And, you know, those police officers, again, are just doing their job on top of it, you know, especially with the pro-Trump crowd that, you know, claims to be pro-law enforcement. Well, why are you bear macing these guys? Right. You know, there are so many paradoxes in this whole thing, in this messy situation. You know, I don't think that you can discount all these people that think that they were cheated. I don't think that you can use violence against the Capitol and get your way. But I also don't think that voting matters at this point. Well, you know,
I mean, yeah. I mean, these are all of the things that have come out of this, and watching this footage is pretty powerful. And I appreciate you going in there and getting it. And I've seen some footage from Status Quo's cameraman was there, which was pretty insane. What he saw, and I mean, there's so many things here. Like, if this was a Black Lives Matter protest, there would have been 10 times the amount of police beforehand, for starters, and they would have been treated violently. I mean, if a bunch of Black Lives Matter protest people broke into the Capitol building, they would have opened fire on them at the very least, they all would have been arrested with zip ties. I mean,
well, let's talk about this because they did open fire on people. So that's, again, something that's not being portrayed in the mainstream media.
Where did they open fire?
Well, they didn't open fire with hot weapons, but with plastic bullets, 100%. So
okay.
When I got there the day before, I got there 2 days before, but the day before, there was a much smaller protest at Freedom Plaza. And, I recently moved from New York, but one of my buddies from New York was there. And he's like, oh, you're here. Great. He was separate from me. He went in the initial charge. So when the lawn was still empty, when all they had was just a few police officers there in front and those metal barriers that you're talking about. And I heard you discuss how there should have been much more barricades. And you're 100% correct if they didn't want people to come in on there. Initially, when they came through, they fired plastic bullets on them. And I'm not just taking his word for it. He had the plastic bullets. Like he literally had the canister. He had the bullets. My buddy Pat Militich, he took a picture of him. His jacket reeked of gas, and basically said once we breached that, that's when everybody rushed and the police retreated to the back. Now, as far as the people that actually got in, right, the guy in the horns and the animal outfit that everybody's seen, I'm gonna tell you right now. Again, I've been around the last couple days. I saw some wild. I saw a woman dressed up in a full head-to-toe predator costume. Like face mask, everything. People with alien masks on, like the death stuff. Those things stick out, right? I didn't see that guy anywhere. I didn't see any of those guys anywhere. And now, don't get me wrong. You're talking about tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. I question how those few got in when a girl gets shot trying to bang down a door and nothing happens to those guys. Now, I'm not discounting the fact that I have footage of it, that people from the MAGA crowd absolutely smash the window to the left of the video you just saw and eventually do get in. But that's long after. So, I think there's a lot of moving parts here. I think that, they want to portray a large mass of people for supporting the president as domestic terrorists. I think that's dangerous. I think that on the other side of that, the full hardcore MAGA crew always wants to blame some kind of false flag or Antifa or BLM without any kind of evidence. But somewhere in the middle lies the truth, and that's what people don't want to talk about. As far as like the MAGA crowd this time around being armed, I didn't see it. I came down 3 weeks ago, Graham, and I was there maybe 20 minutes before that stabbing happened. I walked by that hotel. I was there when the BLM sign was burned that they charged Enrique Tareq. He wasn't even there. Enrique wasn't even there while they burned that BLM sign, And then I was there during the final march 3 weeks ago when they ripped that BLM sign down from the church that's now suing, right? And while that was going on, to my audience, I say, that's not the way to do things. You don't just destroy property. If you want to put another message there, that's fine. I'm not down with the fuck Antifa stuff. You want to talk to these people like human beings as much as you can, right? But I got chastised for my audience, for, you want to destroy property on one side and then the other side, you're not hardcore enough. You should be a Proud Boy, Jason, and you should be on the right. And I'm like, I'm here to report this in a truthful manner. I'm not here to take sides. And the rhetoric of the media, for instance, to make that 3 weeks ago super violent, right? The burning, the stabbing. You know what I saw, Graham? When I was in a crowd of about probably 1,000 to 2,000 of the Proud Boys in that late night march, a car turned in. Now, there was a ton of streets that were warded off in DC. So it was very hard to get around, right? So a car turns into the crowd, no headlights on, and the Proud Boys, instead of starting to tell them to, do something or say something, start tapping on the window. And you could see like the people are a little shook up to tell them to put their lights on. And then as soon as they put their lights on, the Proud Boys let that car right through to the next police checkpoint and they got on the road. Now, does that happen during a BLM protest? I don't know. I haven't been to too many of those, but I've seen the violent actions against some cars.
Well,
now,
I'll tell you what, I've been in a lot of BLM protests and they always start peaceful until the cops show up. The cops completely overreact. And one of the reasons yesterday wasn't as violent is there weren't as many cops there overreacting, because I mean, I almost got run over by a cop car in Santa Monica. He's get the fuck out. They completely overreacted to people peacefully kneeling. So I've seen that happen. I have friends of mine that have been shot with rubber bullets and tear gas at a bunch of Black Lives Matter protests, some of them indie journalists. So there clearly is the Trump people that show up and I find it hard. I mean, if you didn't see any guns, I believe you, but I've seen all these photos of people with guns. I don't know. I wasn't there, but
I'll say this again. At both events, like 3 weeks ago and even this one, and I was at the Harrington, and you can go watch that live stream outside of the JW that does that march, and Antifa's on the other side. I'm live for an hour. I didn't see one weapon. Now, when I say weapon, I mean a gun. Now, there was plenty of LARPers out there that had some kind of a stick, or they're wearing a Rawlings, baseball helmet, and they're geared up. And I think that's playtime acting in a lot of things. I think that a lot of these people are well-meaning, right? But they're kind of lost, and they think something's wrong with the world, and then they think that this is the patriot group to join. And instead of doing that, why don't you get involved in reaching out to everybody? You don't have to join a group, to be an activist. I'm not saying that there's not power behind that, but then once you're identified as that, it's so easy to put you in a box. And then to be going out to look for violence, right? Because you're dressed up for violence. I don't care what you say. I think is also a very negative thing. I somewhat believe in the law of attraction, and you bring things into your life. And if you're preparing for war, you just might get it. Now, I'm going to play another clip to show people maybe how far away I started as to how far I got in. For instance, here, let's see. This is a good shot of me up top. Let's see, right here. And this is outside on the lawn to just show you how many people didn't even, breach onto the Capitol itself, but made their way from the original rally into the grass area. And then, I'm up there on the Capitol with others. Apparently that makes me a terrorist. But again, I didn't break any property. I was there to cover it. You look at that crowd, I don't see any weapons. And I didn't see any type of guns. I didn't see any type of threats with guns. And again, I got to reiterate this. While people were smashing windows, again and again, I saw other people trying to take away the things they were smashing those windows with. So I think that there's a lot of conflict inside that group. It's not one thing, and I think it's dangerous to paint any group as one thing, whether it be Americans, BLM, Antifa, Proud Boys, etc.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing happened with Black Lives Matter. There was a lot of peaceful protesters, and then some people wanted to be violent, and then Black Lives Matter is violent. You also have footage at Black Lives Matter of cops smashing windows out. My niece was at a protest in Portland where she saw federal cops smash out a window and then arrest somebody for that window being smashed out. So the treatment of Black Lives Matter is just radically different. I mean, the fact that, and then again, there's always going to be people that want, in any organization, that want to be violent. There's also, and you just always, it's Antifa infiltrates. It's like, okay, now there's people that are openly violent in Trump land. They're Second Amendment people, and they're white nationalists. And if you're a white nationalist, you want to eliminate people that don't look like you. My uncles fought Nazis in World War II, so they can go fuck themselves. And the Enrique guy did admit to pulling down the flag. I mean, he did, but maybe he was one of the ones that pulled it, or the fire. Well, I know he admitted it. He's not on any of the videos. I'm just saying, so that first night while that was happening. Actually, the pulling down of the sign was the second night. The first night, I actually interviewed Enrique outside of the JW Marriott. Basically, I was live streaming there, and a bunch of people were there. And let me say this, Graham. You can go watch the video for yourself. 3 weeks ago, when I got into DC, I left my hotel, and I was just walking towards the JW because people were telling me something was going on there, right? I got 5 minutes into my stream, and there was I guess it must have been either, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, Black Bloc, some kind of protest there. And I just stopped on the corner wondering if this is where I had to go. I'm not kidding you, man. Again, go watch it. Within 30 seconds, I'm getting screamed at and being called a fascist. And I get run out. And they didn't know who I was. And I wasn't wearing a Trump thing. I was wearing
a cheap Captain America jacket. Like I'm sitting there just with my selfie stick, and I got some girl in a mask, full thing, going F you. All of a sudden I'm being called a fascist. I get surrounded. People are approaching me. The cops aren't doing anything for me. And then, I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm just going to walk on. And then as I walk on closer to the police, that's when they gang up on me more, because that's when they feel so powerful. And then once I get past the police, it's all names. 10 minutes later, when I get to, the MAGA crowd, and that's where Enrique and all these guys, no one approaches me because I'm filming, except for me to talk to me. What?
I mean, because you're white, Jason.
Well,
I mean,
see, that's tough for me because, all right, so
most of the MAGA crowd is white. I mean,
not always. Graham, like, let me put it this way. I'm not saying that the majority aren't white. When I covered it last week, of course they are. But when I went out, say, to the Freedom Rally one 3 weeks ago, I was shocked at how many Chinese Americans there were there. I mean, there was a huge crowd of those people. And then, I'm not saying that they didn't choose Enrique Otario as their leader to, put a better spin on it, that, we have somebody as a person of color leading us. And I'm not even saying that there aren't some white nationalists in the crowd, but that's certainly not the feeling I get from the majority of these people. Just like it's certainly not the feeling I get from the majority of them. I don't think they want violence. I think a lot of them are frustrated that they don't seem to have the recourse they want. But that's the same with Black Lives Matter. A lot of people are going to tell me that Black Lives Matter is all violent. They're all going to F me up. Well, I'll say this. The one black guy that I could tell was black because, he had his face out during when I was getting attacked by everybody else, he turned to me and he said, "Peace, brother, I love you." And I said the same thing back to him, and I don't think that guy hates me, and he wasn't part of the crowd that ganged up on me, but he was at that protest, So at the end of the day, I think when you get people in groups, obviously you get that group mentality, and it only takes one person to start that fire. And then again, with that first footage I showed you, push. It's all those people getting those people to fight that maybe wouldn't, right? But when you get them individually, like when I was looking for a 7-Eleven 3 weeks ago, and there was 2 obvious Antifa members sitting down having a cigarette, and I said, "Hey guys, you know where the 7-Eleven is?" "Yeah, brother, it's around the corner." "Hey, thanks." You can have a conversation with them, and I think that's what we really need to focus on. For instance, Cara Castronova, she's an ex-Golden Gloves boxer. She's very much a MAGA person. But she's concerned about mandatory vaccinations, and she's concerned about lockdowns. So she reached out to BLM. And just last week in New York City, they marched together, MAGA and BLM together on the streets of New York City. Of course, zero press, anti-lockdown, anti-vaccine. They found something that they could agree on, and they put the other bullshit aside. Okay. And I think so much we have to realize that this is class warfare at the end of the day.
Yes.
It's class warfare. And if you think that somebody who has a different color skin than you is somehow inferior or you're superior because you have a certain color of skin, you are in fucking la la land. Like, that is not how most people think, and that is not how others should think. So we have to reach out to every American citizen, and not just Americans, every human being out there, and say, hey, look, there's a class of people out there, a predator class, that at the end of the day, they're concerned about themselves, consolidating power, and controlling the rest of us. And I think that control comes through chaos like this. Graham, overall, I don't know that this is going to have a positive impact. When I watched Nancy Pelosi today say that this was sedition and that they're going to be going after all those people that took over the Capitol legally, I asked myself, well, what about the 65-year-old grandmother that was standing next to me? Is she going to catch a charge because she climbed up? Basically they took the barriers, right? And they put them on the Capitol, and it was this easy to get to the Capitol. It was almost like being a concert. I don't know about you, but I love the concerts. And I used to, not get the general admission, and then I'd hop the thing, and then I'd work my way through the crowd. It was like that. So, I was patient. I walked up. I got to that point. I climbed over the fence. It was very easy. People were helping others do it. And then once I was there, it was pretty easy to get all the way up to the Capitol if I were, because the cops kept retreating, as long as you weren't trying to get violent with anybody. So I don't know why you would charge anybody that was in the stands that just had a scarf on or believed something. The bottom line is, to me, these are our halls of government. we are being ignored on not only a regular basis, but being, lied to on a regular basis. And if they wanted free, fair, and transparent elections in 2020, they could have them, Graham. They could have them. We don't have to have these arguments. We don't have to talk about Dominion. We shouldn't be talking about Diebel because they shouldn't exist. Right. Why we have, machines like this and algorithms and fractions of votes is insanity to me. We now have the technology where if we wanted a free and fair election, hear me out, where we could have for people coming in to go vote, it live streamed. Okay, so everybody walking in, you're live streamed. Now you vote in the area, that's live streamed. The voting machines where you have a physical ballot and you checked, never leave. The ballots are taken out on a live stream. In other words, you can have independent fact checkers that are anybody. You don't have to sign up. Now, you still have the pollsters there. You still have those people there. Then when you get to counting the votes, it's very simple. They have webcams that cost $20 that can read Pokemon cards instantly, tell you how much they're worth, and have you categorize them. You're telling me we can't do that for votes? So literally, you take each vote, you put it under the camera for the live stream, you check it off as a human being, and then boom. Yeah, not that corruption can't happen, Graham, but that would lessen it a lot. And that would be utilizing technology to empower the people and empower a real vote and have actual accountability rather than enslave us through vote flipping and glitches and mistakes that never need to occur.
No, there's a lot of great solutions out there. One of them is Mike Gravel's book. He talks about we should just have open source blockchain voting. As somebody way into crypto in the last 9-10 months, like blockchain, to me, open source blockchain voting is like the solution right there. His book even talks about getting rid of Congress and the Senate and just having bills written. They can't be longer than 500 words, and they real clear, concise, and American people vote on them. The way we vote for American Idol, like we actually vote on the laws rather than letting these people. So I appreciate you coming on and showing the footage, and I agree that we need to unify and that this is class warfare. People that broke into the Capitol building, I just want, if you're going to arrest people at a Black Lives Matter protest for blocking a street. Mm-hmm. So you're trying to tell me that blocking a street is worse than breaking into the Capitol building? Okay, that's where I have a little bit of an issue here.
I get that. Listen, the people that, again, were breaking stuff, that breached or whatever, you know what I mean? Especially, the people that got into the halls. I get that. Criminal charges. It's just like when I hear people about the statues, right? Well, we're going to rip down the statues. I go, listen, if you're going to charge those people with crimes, that's fine. Let's not make them a terrorist. Let's get them with damage of property, just like the rule of law says. On the flip side of that, that girl that got shot, I don't know if you've seen the video of it yet. I watched it for the first time last night. It was extremely disturbing. She's a military veteran, and there's clearly no warning that she's going to get shot, and no one has weapons, and no one's like, yeah, she's smashing on a door that has a glass window, but all of a sudden a bullet comes through that glass window and kills her. And to me, that is unexcusable, man. Number one, lethal force was never necessary at that point. Number two, I think that if the reverse had happened, let's say that did happen to a Black Lives Matter protester under a different set of circumstances, aka a different place, I think that would be national news. And instead, you're barely hearing about that, but they're focusing in on the 4 deaths. And like I said, as far as I know, 2 more of those were heart attacks, during the panic ensuing in what was going on in that congestion of the Capitol. When they let off concussion grenades, they did. They let out gas. They let out the mace, for sure. Yeah. But that doesn't excuse the opposite side, the protesters, from using barricade breakers, using bear mace themselves. I've got another video of someone climbing up there, fist fighting and breaking sticks over. He breaks a stick into 3 different pieces, hitting the police. So, it's really tough for me, man. I think that there's going to be a lot of change in this country in the coming 3 weeks, no matter what happens. And I want to see that change be positive, but I can't help but think it's going to be negative no matter what. And I don't want to say that, but it's what I feel.
No, it's about, I'll say this, a little pushback with the woman that was killed is like the amount of I mean, just this past summer, I mean, George Floyd, what happened to him was atrocious. But he had a criminal record. That's no, you don't get to put your knee on the neck of a guy. That's bullshit. Oh, Jacob Blake, they shot him in the back 7 times. And here's a woman breaking into the Capitol building. She is actually in the act of committing a crime. There's an angry mob. So is that cop more justified? Or maybe the Blue Lives Matter group, most of them MAGA supporters, need to go, oh, maybe cops do have too much force. Maybe we do spend too much money on them. So you can't sit there. I have a real problem with all the rhetoric that came from the right this summer at all these Black Lives Matter protests to then say, oh, it's not fair how we're covering her. She's not getting enough coverage. If we're going to talk about her, then you can't. You're getting a lot of people are getting caught in this hypocrisy. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's okay that they put their knee on the neck of a guy because he had a criminal record. No, it's not.
Well, let me push back a little on George Floyd. The thing with George Floyd is Derek Chauvin knew him. Right. Derek Chauvin worked with him. Derek Chauvin worked at a club with George Floyd, and we had a couple people say that. We had the owner of the club actually come out and talk about how they had worked together. And then you had a gentleman come out and actually give an interview that was featured in the Daily Mail and then recant and said it was another guy afterwards. But Derek Chauvin absolutely was the cop on duty at one of the clubs that George Floyd worked at. The word is that they did not like each other, that George Floyd was sleeping with somebody that Derek Chauvin actually liked. Any way you look at it, those guys had a personal history. Now, I don't know whether first of all, that knee on the neck, F that. You don't treat any human being like that. But I don't know that, Derek Chauvin was necessarily racist. He might have just hated that guy. It might have been that route. And I'm not talking about his criminal history. I'm talking about that they had a personal relationship. And that was never expanded upon. And I thought that was a real problem in that narrative too. So, I try to keep race out of it. I realize that race is a real issue in this country and that racists absolutely exist. But I also see a media that is so quick to make everything into a racial issue. And as far as the police go, I think you're 100% right that you have this, right-wing group that wants to talk about how the police are, beyond reproach and everything that they do is, great. That's bullshit. We all know that. But instead of defund the police, how about demilitarize the police? What we've been doing for the last 20 years, take away all those gear and then find a better way for when they do act in misconduct. I spoke about Dylan really quick. He has another great documentary about police brutality called Black and Blue from about 4 or 5 years ago. Let's find tools that when police do breach that trust and do commit acts of atrocity, that it's not cronyism where they just get away, where maybe we take it to a different district where the judge and the community aren't going to be on their side and just look at the evidence. So again, I think a lot of these solutions are somewhere in between, and the media is constantly trying to make it about one group versus another group, left versus right, black versus white, and we gotta find somewhere in the middle where we can come together and we can have discernment with one another, because I'm all about love, friend. And I think that's the only solution to all this is that we gotta have understanding, look for real solutions, and not try to go to the extremes of either side that are being presented in the mainstream.
Well, that's definitely true. I mean, look, I saw it, and I was at a lot of Black Lives Matter protests in late March and June, and I saw people of all walks of life. I mean, I saw more white people at a Black Lives Matter protest than I've ever seen, and the media made it out to be a race war. And I was like, well, that's not accurate, because again, they need to keep us divided. They need to keep us red state, blue state, black, white, male, female, whatever, rather than the obvious, as we've discussed. You discuss it on your show. We both, as people that have covered the, Epstein case, we talk about the ruling class as just evil. And so they got to keep us fighting with each other so that we don't acknowledge the obvious class warfare that these 4,000 billionaires that control the planet, many of whom are, rape children and sell them, and they're fucking monsters, like the fuck them. So I have no problem if a cop put their knee on the neck of Les Wexner and killed him in 8 minutes. That I would have there would be no there would be nothing to
Les Wexner's been exonerated. I don't know what you're talking about, Graham. I mean, Les Wexner's done nothing wrong, apparently. I mean, that's incredible.
I know. All the mug shots of Nygaard, Gene Lupernell, and Julian Maxwell we've seen of all their shots in custody. Anyway, separate episode. You and I can talk about this at another time. But look, Jason, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I appreciate, even if maybe we're not agreeing on everything here, I appreciate you going there, showing the footage, and I appreciate your sentiment of we got to work together and find a place of love. That's great, and we got to be able to disagree without a fuck you, without
exactly. Listen, man, that's the thing. I mean, we got to have different flavors out there. Do we want to live in a world where everybody thinks and acts the same and there's just one uniform truth and one uniform style? That's not possible with humanity. So I think it is discussions like this that need to happen more and more, and we can have friendly disagreements and then bring up our points and our evidence and then let other people decide and let us think about another person's perspective, because that's so important in today's day and age.
Yeah, it is. Well, dude, thank you. Thanks for reaching out on the show and watching and showing your footage. I really appreciate it. And, I'm glad you're safe. I was worried yesterday was going to turn into a fucking firefight when the curfew hit. That's what I was worried about. I thought it was going to be a standoff, dude. And the fact you were in it is like, woof. I mean,
well, listen, man, I love your stuff. I tune in a lot. The other day when you were on fire, taking up for your friend Jimmy Dore, I loved every second of it. And, I know, even though we don't disagree on, or we do disagree on a lot, I know your heart is in the right place. And what I need is more people to have their heart in the right place. And I think that's what we all need. So you got to come on my show too sometime in the future when I get back home, and we'll talk Epstein and a lot of other stuff. Graham, I love you, and I'll talk to you soon, brother.
All right, Jason. Thank you too, brother. Thanks a lot, man.
Yep.
We'll see you soon. Jason Burmis, ladies and gentlemen. That was a fantastic interview. That's what let's there's better people that need a voice. Graham, interview them. Look, man, all I've been trying to do since yesterday is get people on the show who were there and show me some footage and give me their perspective. That's all I've been trying to do. I've been trying to get Status Quo is the first guy. Jordan's the first guy I called. Try to get his interviewer or his camera guy. There's not a lot of indie. I mean, so I'm just trying to get people's. If you don't agree with Jason, that's fine. But he brought up some valid points. And the stuff that you didn't agree with him on, that he was just saying, to immediately just say, oh, he's some MAGA journalist. He's not. He's trying to get it right, just like I am. He comes from a different, view and whatever. He realizes it's class warfare and all of that. So, he's covered Epstein. He knows what the ruling class does. He knows how they operate. So you don't have to agree with them, but I think that the lumping people into one category, unless they've just, he's not Sean Hannity. You know what I mean? Sean Hannity's proven who he is, right? Anderson Cooper's proven who he is. Rachel Maddow, Russiagator, proven who she is. So give someone the benefit of the doubt, and you can just say, I don't agree with them on this and that. And to say I should have better people on the show, I can't just get, you guys say, get this person, get that person. I can't just, some of these people I don't even know. I got to email them. I don't know who was there yesterday and who wasn't. I don't watch every single person. So he reaches out and wants to show me footage, and I'm glad he showed it. And I'm glad we got to hear his perspective. I'm not going to have the Status Quo person got a lot of crazy footage, man. So, and how can you just totally discount a guy who literally just said on this show, we got to come together. We got to come from a place of love. We got to figure this out. Because he's right. Like the people that broke in, that they need to be prosecuted. But the grandmother in the stands or anybody just watching on the street, they shouldn't be. I mean, if you broke into the Capitol, you should be arrested. Anyway. Yeah, putting the all caps. All right, he's a libertarian. That's the thing. Yeah. Yeah, you can't turn down people who outreach. It's one thing. Like, I'm not going to have some alt-right guy on the show who's just going to tell me the Holocaust never happened and whatever. I'm not going to have that. That's bullshit. I'm not going to, that's just someone who's just out to lunch. I'm not going to listen to them. Some just Trumper who's like, Trump's never wrong. He's always right. Everything he says is great. I'm not going to have them on the show. There's not even anywhere to just, there's no common ground. Jason and I have some common ground. So I'm going to hear what he has to say. And, you know, that was real dialogue, what Jason and I just had. That was real dialogue, real debate, real discussion, and listening to each other. You know, I'd get more views and clicks if I just brought people on and yelled at them and squared and, you know, but that's not what I'm doing here. I just want to get it right. I want to hear what I want to hear. Look, man, he was there. I wasn't. So I wanted to hear what he had to say. Jason Reynolds, shave your knuckles for justice. He's gone. Be the most self-righteous guy standing in a mass grave saying, why didn't they just talk to me? I don't quite understand that, but let me read all the other super chats I missed. Yeah, the other thing too is you know, one of the reasons I have people on who sometimes have different points of view is you're the audience. You make your decision. You know, I don't want to give a platform to some neo-Nazi and let them. I'm not going to do that. But you know, watch Jason's stuff for yourself. Make your own decision. You know, I mean, there's a difference between someone that's just objectively pushing bullshit and lies versus someone that believes what they're saying and you just don't agree with it. Those are two very different things. Those are two very different things. You know, people who are just trying to say crazy shit to get likes and clicks, that's not authentic. I don't know Jason personally. It's not like Jimmy Dore I've known for 20 some years. So I know Jimmy. I know Jimmy quite well. I don't know Jason personally, but he's always been fair and honest, and I respect what he does. I don't agree with everything. You know, same thing with Jordan Sheridan, same thing with the Convo Couch, same thing with a lot of these people. I got respect for them. Kim Iverson, I got respect for him. You know, there's a difference between that and then just like TYT Cedar crowd that's just trying to get on MSNBC because they're punks, you know. DC Punk, shave your knuckles for justice. Find people both sides, Jason Burmis. Well, did he say that? You're taking a Trump quote and calling it with him. DC Punk, does Jason know Eric Chapman? Boom. I don't know about that. Jason Reynolds, Hitler was just misunderstood, huh, Jason? You guys, I really don't think this is, you can disagree with him, but now you're calling him like you're just saying he's like a right-wing alt-right Trumper, which that's not what he was saying. That's not what he was saying. He was saying, this is what I saw. This is how I was treated. And so yeah, don't like, if we can't have anybody with a different point of view, come on now. Sleepy 22, shave your knuckles for justice. This guy is spot on. Prosecuting protesters is very short-sighted, but investigating and reforming police for different treatment than Black Lives Matter is a must. Yeah. Yep. The fact that the police treat Black Lives Matter protests versus the MAGA people absolutely needs to be investigated to the fullest extent of the law. DC Punk, shape your knuckles for justice. This piece of shit. See, now you're getting insulting. So that's one of the things we don't do here, man, is lying again. You can see in the video from the guy's gun posture that he was issuing commands to the woman to get down. That's your interpretation. You don't want to agree with them. That's fine. Jason Reynolds, and racists love apologists like you, Jason. Yeah, I don't think he's apologizing. I don't see that. Yeah, we should have just sat down and talked with the Nazis back in 41. Okay. Are some of the people in Trump's white nationalist racist? Absolutely. Can you reason with them? Probably not. Probably not. But if you're just going to say every Trump supporter is a Nazi and a racist, that's like when they say every Black Lives Matter person is a terrorist. Can you reason with someone who's got a gun and wants to fucking kill people that don't look like them? No. But again, you're like the things that Jason, when he said in this interview that we just had, and I have to kind of replay it for you. That he's against people that say that judge someone on the color of their skin. And he wants to come to a place of peace. So he did say that. And now you're saying that he's apologizing for Nazis in World War II. I think that's a big leap. Matt S., shave your knuckles for justice. To be consistent, I wasn't down with Black Lives Matter, Antifa writing, and same with the MAGA hostile takeover. Domestic terrorism is domestic terrorism. All right, thank you for being consistent. Tisha T., shave your knuckles for justice. Thank you, Graham, for letting Burma speak in this safer arena for someone like me to listen to. You got it. All right, those I read. Basil Peterson, I listen to everyone but think for myself. Fuck you. I'm just joking. You come up with this very reasonable super chat, and then I just swear at you. I just find that kind of shit just makes me laugh. Harry C. Smith, everyone, boom, shave your knuckles for justice. Everyone aware the cabinet, Pence, McConnell, senior Republicans and Democrats, Joint Chiefs, DOJ, courts, and both houses are discussing the 25th Amendment imminently. I know. Trump might get impeached and put in jail like today. That could happen. Matt S. Boom. The amount of overlap between progressives and libertarians is more than most think. Keeps me coming back, Graham. And that's the thing that I say, Matt, I know you're like a progressive that comes on this show, or you're a libertarian that comes on the show, and I appreciate it. And it sounds like Jason's pretty libertarian in many of his views. And the thing that I always say, there is a lot of overlap between progressives and libertarians. And the thing I like about libertarians, they're at least willing to listen to another point of view because they left the two-party system themselves. They said, I'm out of this two-party bullshit. And they went libertarian, which is a little more conservative than I am. But you have to figure out some kind of common ground because everyone's not going to agree with you. And if every time somebody doesn't agree with you, you just say, fuck you, get out. You're a Nazi. Then what's the solution? Just get a gun and start killing each other? That's a pretty horrific solution. Look, I was watching the Fox News feed yesterday just to see how Fox was covering it. And I was kind of like mildly surprised that they were going, wow, this is messed up. This shouldn't happen. The president should be held accountable for his words, which are absolutely true. You're the president. You're not just some guy. This ain't just you can't just talk shit on social media like whatever, like you're some celebrity. You're the president. And when the president says to their followers, go do this. I mean, if Bernie Sanders would have said the Democrats cheated me, go take fucking the Capitol building, a bunch of people would have done it. Part of me wished you would have, but a bunch of people would have done it. And he would have been, you know, held accountable for that. And a lot of us Bernie supporters would have said, yeah, but Bernie's right. We felt cheated. We're taking back the Capitol building. And we would have been called domestic terrorists by people. And the progressive left is out of control. But had Bernie done that, I might have joined. I'm just saying. Aiden Daniels, Shave Your Knuckles for Justice. Graham, I'm glad you have people on with diversity of opinion. If anyone, libertarian or socialist, has any trust in our current government left after the last 40 years, then they are still asleep. Yeah, I know. See, that's the thing. Like, we agree with Jason. He knows the system's broken. He knows the ruling class is killing everybody. We all agree on that. And saying, you know, like saying every Trump supporter is a Nazi, well, that's not accurate. The white nationalists, the ones that call themselves that, yeah, you can call them because they're calling it themselves. Confederate flag, you can a lot of judgments on that. True leftists have more in common with the MAGA supporter than the oligarchs. Think about it. And hey, go watch Jason's stuff. Go watch his stuff. And if after that you still have the same opinion of him, great. But at least you did your research. You can't just listen to this guy for 25 minutes on my show and then just say, rah, rah, rah. Look at his body of work. You know, look at his body of work. Because look at how Jimmy got treated for Force the Vote. Anna Kasparian, oh, he's a crazy. He has anger issues. She sits next to Cenk and has for years. Cenk, who yells and screams and bangs the desk all the time, has a book called Mad as Hell. AOC, who Jimmy had on her show. Nomiki Konst, who Jimmy had on her show. I had Nomiki Konst on the show. They're now smearing Jimmy left and right. He's out of control. He's crossed the line. He just wants Medicare for all. They don't agree with them or their egos or whatever, or he did something that they don't like. So now they're discounting everything. Oh, now Jimmy's sexist. That's why he doesn't like the squad. They're pretending they didn't hear all of his criticisms about Bernie Sanders. Was he what, anti-Semitic when Jimmy went after Bernie Sanders? So I'm telling you, the reaction that Jimmy has just taken this last month by people on the so-called left, you have to look at that and see how full of shit they are and ask yourself, am I doing the same thing with somebody like Jason? Am I doing the same thing with somebody like the Convo Couch? 2 people I've had on the show 2 days in a row, I don't agree with them on many stuff and have said so. But I didn't yell. I wasn't insulting. I'm not going to do that. So, because if we're going to be critical of the Vote Any Blue Will Do crowd, and we're going to be critical of the MAGA people that say Trump never lies, that's crazy. That's just that. And you prove them facts and they don't want to hear it. That's crazy. That's a form of insanity. But the people that think, oh, you know, Obama was this great cuddly president, they don't want to hear that he bombed more people than Bush. They don't want to hear about the 6 million foreclosures. They don't want to hear about the contaminated water in Flint. They don't want to hear about CIA black sites. They don't want to hear about it. So this show is not going to be that. It's not going to act that way. So I'm going to get some opinions. Maybe I don't agree with necessarily. I'm going to get some point of views because I'm going to challenge my own thinking. If you're unwilling to challenge your own thinking and just lump everybody into a category when you don't agree with them, then maybe this isn't the show for you. I'm not saying that to be a dick. I'm not blocking anybody. I'm not saying get the fuck out of here. I'm legitimately asking you, maybe, because if you can't handle somebody like Jason being on the show, then maybe this isn't the show for you. This is not an echo chamber. I don't want it to be. I'm on Crosstalk all the time with Peter Lavelle, who is a Reagan Republican. Peter has me on his show Well, I make him laugh, and he loves it when I make fun of the Democrats. Great. Sure. But Peter and I met in Moscow, thanks to Susie Dawson. And Peter was like, us progressives and conservatives, we got to come together on anti-war. Let's come together on anti-war. I'm down with that. A lot of Trump supporters voted for Trump because he ran an anti-interventionist campaign. He hasn't done it. He's bombed people. He's lied. He didn't uphold any of his campaign promises. And I can prove that to any Trump supporter any day of the week if they're willing to listen and read. But there is a place of common ground. So do you want to end all the wars? Do you want Medicare for all? Or do you just want to draw lines in the sand and tell everybody to fuck off? Because the lines in the sand, everybody fucks off. Great. We're going to be in Yugoslavia. You want to be in Yugoslavia? You want to murder each other? You want to have no running water? You want to do that? Talk to some people who lived in Yugoslavia, in Bosnia during that time. Talk to some people who lived in Ireland in the 70s. See how that went. White Seed, thank you for having Jason on. Love different perspectives. Well, fuck you for saying that, you fucking son of a bitch, you Nazi apologist. I'm kidding. See the joke I'm making? Thank you, White Seed. I appreciate that. I don't know how anyone could watch yesterday and not have a range of emotions and be angry and upset and lash out at people. I mean, we all were looking for someone to blame, and there's a lot of legitimate blame to have. But you can't just say, oh, it's Trump. Because there's a lot of things that went into creating an environment that allowed yesterday to happen. The Democratic Party crushing progressives within their own party. Because if the Democratic Party embraced progressives, the Democratic Party would never lose. Like FDR never lost. They had to put on term limits. The Democratic Party was truly about workers' rights, but they've been co-opted by the corporations over the last 4 decades. The corporations and the ruling class, they're the enemy. The 99% is not your enemy. There's things to disagree on, but I bet you we all want the same things. How we get them, right? You even break down the people who want the wall, they support ICE and they want a border wall. Get underneath that reason? There might be, I'm sure there's a lot of racism in there, no two ways about it. But at the core, it's like, I want to feel safe. Well, here's one way to have safety. Not sanction these countries in Central and South America. That not sanction and destabilize them, because sanctioning is an act of war. Destabilizing creates chaos, which makes people forced to leave their home and come here. So if you don't want people coming here, why don't we help make their homes safe? Because most people don't want to leave the home where they grew up. So people go, oh, wow, I never thought of that. Because America's been raised on fear. They're coming to get you. The Republicans are raised on fear using a lot of xenophobia. The blacks and Mexicans are coming, be afraid. And you watch the liberal, the MSNBC, Russia, and the Trumpers are coming. So, yeah, man. White Brain Studios. Keep being you, Graham. Love your show as is. Thanks, brother. Thank you. Ramel Horn. Graham had the Dems and mainstream media. Had the Dems and mainstream media not Russiagated for 4 years, I don't think we would be here. They are just as responsible. Absolutely. For 4 years. For 4 years, the Democratic Party and mainstream media have been screaming Russia, demonizing. It's racist what they're doing against the Russians, just making them all evil, criminal, right? Just the way and the mainstream media, a lot of, not just the Fox crowd, have demonized Muslims. Oh, Muslims are all terrorists. Oh, all Russians hack elections. I've had arguments with liberal friends of mine. When I went to Russia, they're like, you went to Russia? Did you ask fucking why they tell them to stop hacking our election? I've had that conversation a half a dozen times with people I just met when I tell them, oh, I went to Russia. So the Dems are partially responsible for this. They haven't dealt, and again, read Chris Hedges' Death of the Liberal Class. The liberal elites didn't give the people populist stuff that they wanted, which allowed fascism to foster. Did the Democrats, did the mainstream media talk about how the Democrats cheated in the 2016 primary for 4 years and we had sweeping election reform as a result? Nope. We just blamed Russia. So part of yesterday was they don't trust the elections. The Trump supporters don't trust the elections. Can you blame them? I don't think Trump won, but anyone who says I don't trust our elections from any political persuasion, I don't. That was my contention with Convo Couch yesterday. I go, you guys are just doing this one-sided. Everybody cheated. If you had done as much research in a red state showing how much Republicans cheat, then I could listen to your claims, but you didn't. You only did you only looked at Democratic states and the Democrats cheating. So the whole system's broken. The whole system's broken. You tell me the whole system's broken and Trump won? No, I don't buy that. The whole system's broken and both of these guys suck. So the Dems absolutely helped create this environment. They just fucking voted down $2,000. Everybody just voted down 41 of 48 Democrats in the Senate voted down Bernie's $2,000. It's unreal, man. Lucky Burrito Art Music, inclusive, not exclusive. Truce to fight together. Yeah, it's a good thing. I'm a Putin puppet. Did Putin sit at my table? Yeah, all the time. They're like, oh, Putin flew Graham out there. Man, I'm a Russian agent. You got that right. I'm totally Russian agent. I mean, Putin only afforded to, I flew fucking coach. Jesus. Next time, fucking maybe the Kremlin buys me at least a business class seat. Christ, it's a 12-hour flight. What the fuck? Sherry Snugs, boom. I do disagree with some of Jason's views, but I'm grateful that you brought him on your show, and I will check his stuff out. I love you, Graham. Love you too, man. Thanks for being open-minded. Hate keeps dividing us, which plays into the hands of the corporatists, neolibs, and neoconservatives. Yes, it does. Putin is great. He and I surf together. Graham's a MAGA secret agent. Jesus Christ. Yeah, blame the Dems because the reason we don't have Bernie is the Democratic Party. Got to put a little on Bernie for not fighting back. Stain Heart Art R. Castillo, Shaving Knuckles of Justice, just went on a lefty book splurge and got all the Hedges Camp Jimmy books. You need to write a book, Graham. Oh, all right. Yeah, the RNs, the GOP did to Ron Paul is what the DNC did to Bernie. Yeah, absolutely. Wait, did I miss one? I think I missed one. Yeah, not all BLM protests were violent. That was the other thing. The news tried to point it that way. And when it was peaceful and everybody got along, the news didn't cover it. Because violent protests are better for ratings. All right. Sorry, I missed a few. All right, let me get these ones I missed. Graham, I'm glad you have people on with different diversity of opinion. If anyone libertarian to socialist has... Oh, yeah, I already read that one. Sorry. Melissa H. What's up, Melissa? Those Trump supporters who could be reached have been. Those breaching the Capitol are beyond reachable. They will forever have allegiance to Trump. Yeah, that's true. There's some of these people that are just never... They're always going to be like Trump, Trump's always... And they're going to take that to their grave. You can't reach them. Lana, Shaving Knuckles of Justice. Thank you, Graham. Thank you. Seth Peterson, what's up? Shave your knuckles for justice. 518 likes. Right on. Those in power have completely abandoned the American people. What happened was inevitable when you have a system that treats you like garbage and have a narcissist as your leader. I would make that leaders. Not Trump is a narcissist for sure, but he ain't the only one. We have been divided, made to hate each other while they F us all. You're absolutely correct. Yeah. Book title, Big Kale Never Fails. Yeah. I know, man. It's so true. It's so true. Sleepy 22, shave your knuckles for justice. My cousin is Trump guy. Though he knows all his faults, he hates Clintons and is very accurate critics of Dems. In Europe, he was a social democrat. Yeah, I know. I know. I know. Still want to have polite conversations with the libertarians? Yeah, I do. Even though like when I say there's things we disagree on, but they're willing to listen, it doesn't mean I'm going to go, oh, that's okay. But I guess all the peace talk and the getting along is just too much for people sometimes right now. All right. I've been talking for fucking 3 hours. Jesus. Yeah, they're anti-war. They are anti-war libertarians. Would you reject a heart transplant from a racist? No. What, his heart's going to make me racist? That's not how science works. Because then I'd be like, oh, I took a racist heart and I made it into a good one. Yeah, people should be pissed. To say all libertarians hate us is not accurate. All right. Kate, can you send me that? All right. Libertarians are the ones that jump on Bitcoin. Everybody is jumping on Bitcoin from all different walks of life. That's why it just fucking crossed 38 grand. All right. This is the thing. All right. How do I? Kate, I can't copy and paste that. Can you email me that link? And I'll play that out. I'll play the people singing Christmas carols to Julian Assange on the way out. You can't carry firearms in DC, but it's very weird imagining all those lunatics actually observed the law. Maybe they did. I don't know. As soon as Kate emails me the link, I'm more like a Dorothy Day anarchist. All right, folks, let's watch this. This is everybody singing outside Belmarsh Prison on Christmas Eve.
The higher you build your barriers, the taller I become. The farther you take my rights away, the faster I will run. You can deny.
Whoops.
The higher you build your barriers, the taller I become. The farther you take my rights away, the faster I will run. You can deny me, you can decide to turn your face away, no matter, 'cause there's something inside so strong. I know that I can make it, but you're doing me wrong, so wrong. You thought that my pride was gone. Oh no, something inside so strong. Oh, something inside so strong. Oh, yeah. The more you refuse to hear me, the louder I will sing. You might be on the walls of Jericho. The light will come tumbling. Deny my place in time. You squander wealth that's mine. My light will shine so brightly it will blind you. Oh, no matter, 'cause there's something inside so strong. Something in me so strong. I know that I can make it. But you're doing me wrong, so wrong. You thought that my pride was gone. Oh no, something inside so strong. Oh, something inside so strong. Brothers and sisters, when they insist we're just not good enough, and we're not good enough yet. When we know better, just look them in the eyes and say, we're gonna do it anyway. 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 coming inside so strong.
Well, I hope Julian heard that. That's our show, folks. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. You got to be able to hear different points of view. I am not affiliated with MCSC Network. I'm not affiliated with any network. I'm affiliated with the fucking Vegan Gun Network. That's the goddamn network I am. Boom. I answer to the citizens of Gotham. Connect the dots. Follow the money. Find the truth, everybody. Shave your knuckles for justice. Have a nice day. What's today? Thursday. I'm probably going to take Friday and Saturday off and come back Sunday, or maybe I'll do Saturday, Sunday off. I don't know. You know, they burn down a building or whatever. We'll see what happens tomorrow. If I wake up tomorrow morning and some crazy shit's gone down, maybe I'll go live. Who knows? Or maybe I'll go surfing. Have a great night. The trolls want to divide us. Yep, they do. And some of them are paid by private intelligence. So the people that are always like, fight, no, fight, resistance. Some of them are just angry, voicing their mind. That's fine. But some of them are paid by private intelligence to come and stir shit up. There's private intelligence inside MAGA. There's private intelligence inside Black Lives Matter. There's private intelligence inside this chat. Because unity is bad for the ruling class. So I have sold out to Big Smoothie, and there's nothing you can do about it. Julian's still in jail. Free Assange.